this then, because they didn't bother us yesterday when I had my phone away from me.
Okay. All right, we are live. Let me get Mr. Kane. Mr. Jones. Good morning, John.
Morning, Your Honor.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Jones.
Morning.
John, do you expect anyone else to be present for this?
Not that I know of, Your Honor.
Let me run through the names that I've got in the waiting room and let me know if either of you recognize them. John Lovinger?
No.
Nope. Have no idea who that is.
Jeffrey Jones?
That's my brother.
All right, I'll bring him in. Megan Morris?
Don't know who that is.
I've got a Brian Jones. Is that another brother?
Another brother.
Okay, we'll let him in. Don Burrows?
Don't know who that is.
That's probably on
Okay.
this case, Judge.
Yeah, and I've got a couple phone numbers in here. I mean, are there any other siblings or relatives that you're aware of that might possibly be wanting to?
Yes, sir. David Jones might be coming. I don't know. He's
Wait,
aware
well,
of. Yeah.
let me check these two that are unidentified.
Okay.
Find out who they are, put names with them. I don't want to exclude anyone. So give me just a moment.
I can't either come up with a message about the internet not working.
Okay, I just let somebody in the courtroom with a ending in 5510. What is your name?
That's Cynthia Drake.
Okay, hold on a minute. I'm going to put a name with this, and I'm going to put you back in the waiting room because we're not quite ready for your case.
We are having trouble.
Okay, just sit tight. I'm assuming Cynthia Drake was not on your case. Is that correct?
That I know
Okay.
Who that is.
All right, there's one other, it's just a bunch of initials, so let me see who that is. Do you recognize him?
of. I don't.
All right, I'm going to find out who it is as soon as we have a connection. Okay, sir, I just let you in the courtroom, but I can't tell who you are. What is your name?
Donald Benzinski. I'm a land surveyor.
Okay, you must be a witness in that trial we've got coming up.
Yes.
How do you spell your last name?
It's B as in boy, E-N-D as in dog, Z-I-N-S-K-I.
Okay, I'm going to put you back in the waiting room. I had to know who you are to make sure I'm not excluding someone.
Right.
We'll bring you back when it's time for that case.
All righty.
Got him on here. Oh, thank you.
Okay, so. And let me see, all the other names are identified, so I think we've got everyone here. Okay, we're ready to proceed then on the matter of Donald G. Jones. Mr. Kane, you are the appointed by the court, LGAL?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and we're here to approve Mr. Jones, I guess, final report, well, docket in front of me, but I'm having to work from home, so I'm a little limited. I don't have the file. I've got the inventory that was filed, so am I approving both the inventory and the final account today, Mr. Kane?
Your Honor, I was not supplied with the inventory.
So
That's to my knowledge.
that's just me here.
Uh,
So,
So, I mean, the inventory typically isn't the subject of the hearings. There is an inventory amount on the second page of the account for $106,012.40. But I don't believe I've seen the inventory itself. I don't know when that was filed. It may have been filed sometime ago.
It's got a file stamp on it of November 2nd.
Wow. Okay, well, that's the same date as the account. But I don't think I got that with the account. And I typically don't get the inventories when I get the account to review.
You reviewed the inventory, or I'm sorry, the accounting, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And in your estimation, the accounting is in the proper form and acceptable for filing with the court.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Jones, you prepared both this final account and the inventory?
Yes.
Is everything in each of them true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, so Mr. Jeffrey Jones, Mr. Brian Jones, have you both had an opportunity to review the inventory and the final account?
I have, Your Honor.
I have.
Do either of you have any objections to either of the filings?
I do not.
The only objection I have is the showing a listing of my house on here as an asset of my dad's. The house is 3 payments from being paid off, and with the issues I ran into with my brothers trying to throw me in jail, I have that in escrow where I can make that payment and get title to my house, but no one's asked me if I wanted to do that. Or
Which address is that, sir?
721 Griswold Street.
All right, the accounting, or I'm sorry, the inventory lists that as an asset because there's apparently still some balance remaining on the land contract before it's paid off.
Yes, there's 3 payments left.
That's incorrect, Your Honor. So,
All right, well, the inventory lists the value. And I'm not, let me ask you, Mr. Donald Jones, sorry. I'm sorry, yeah, Donald Jones. You listed on the inventory with the value of $88,200. Is that the value of the home or the value of the balance remaining on the land contract?
that's the value of the home based on the equalized value tax thing that
I got you. Well, how much is owing?
there's something just before Dad passed away, the attorney went over the paperwork, and it's something like $14,000 some dollars, plus there would have to be some kind of court costs and stuff, but Jeff did not finish paying for the house. The last payment he made to my dad was September of last year. And then he quit paying. So.
Well, all I would be approving by virtue of these documents, since the purpose is to close out the conservatorship, I'm not making any determination of what the balance is on that land contract. That is something that would be a matter between the parties to the estate proceeding. Have you initiated an estate proceeding?
Initiated that part there, what apparently, when Dad died, that stopped. The attorney is going to have to do another one. I have not started another thing on Jeff's house yet.
All right. Well, your authority to act on behalf of your father essentially ends upon his death, other than wrapping up the details. The only way you can act on behalf of the estate is if you are appointed as the personal representative.
Which I was on November 9th.
He is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there has been an estate proceeding initiated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it would be, Mr. Jeffrey Jones, it would be an issue to be resolved in that estate proceeding. If there's a dispute as to the balance that's owed, I don't think it's necessary for me to wade into that at this stage. We're just making sure that assets, income, and expenses up until the time of your father's death have been properly accounted for. Mr. Kane, I'm correct on that?
Absolutely, Your
So,
Honor.
Mr. Jones, did you understand that explanation? I'm not going to make a decision today as to how much is owed. It is proper, if there's still a balance owed, for it to be listed among the assets. And it clearly is listed as a land contract interest, but it would be for the estate, it would be for resolution in the estate proceeding rather than this proceeding that you would raise those kinds of objections.
Okay.
Other than that, did you have any objections to the final account?
Well, other than the list doesn't show my dad's pickup truck that came up missing, or
Oh, Your Honor, I can address that right now. When my brother had power of attorney, I paid $4,000 for a pickup truck that is worth roughly $1,400 because my dad was in dire need of money, because the buffoon who's talking to you, not now, but previous to me, embezzled thousands and thousands upon thousands of dollars. I have not only a bill of sale, I have registered that vehicle in my name. I have checks to show that it went into my father's account, and not a joint account like my brother, my brother Jeff had, that he could just take money out of, but an actual monitored account that my brother Don took care of. That truck did not show up missing. It was sold because my dad was left penniless by Jeff.
So, Mr. Donald Jones, let me ask you, at the time you became conservator, had that vehicle already been sold to your knowledge?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And you saw the bill of sale that Mr. Brian Jones is referring to?
Yeah, I did all that paperwork. I had power of attorney at that time. When my dad, I don't know if this is even the right place to talk about all this stuff. When my dad went into a assisted living, Jeff had power of attorney, which none of us even knew. He told me I needed to take over because he had no way to know how he was going to pay for Dad's care, and figured I would just pay for it because I probably could have if I, so I did everything I could to keep Dad in assisted living, and did all that. And I sold Scott the truck. So I don't know what Jeff's problem is.
So that transaction, let me stop you. That transaction occurred before you were appointed a conservator?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So, Mr. Jeffrey Jones, again, if you have an issue with that truck, it clearly, based on what Mr. Donald Jones has stated, never came into his possession as conservator, and therefore it shouldn't be listed on the either the conservatorship inventory, and no transaction relating to that truck should be encompassed in the accounting. That would have been a transaction that, if you have a challenge to, is in Mr. Donald Jones' role as a fiduciary under a power of attorney, it wouldn't have arisen under his authority as a conservator. So that again is not something I have to finally address today. All I can say is it's not within the scope of this proceeding.
That's fine. I mean, now that I've heard from someone what happened to it, I don't have any issues with it. You know, but like I say, the day my brother took over with his power of attorney, they initiated things to get me thrown in jail for embezzling from my father, which I spent my entire life with my father nearly every day, helping him out and doing everything I could do for him. And that's just whatever that is.
All right,
I'm speaking. So.
I appreciate that, gentlemen. I realize you may have a difference of opinion on that issue, but again, that's beyond the scope of my limited role today of approving a final account. There being no other objections to this final account, I'm going to approve it. At this point, I would be closing, entering an order, closing out the conservatorship.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not sure when I'm going to get back into the courthouse to be able to sign that, but we will get it signed and out and served on everyone in due course. Did any of you have any other questions?
I'm all set, sir.
Yeah, what about all of the stuff that disappeared from my dad's house the day after the conservatorship was signed?
What about all the stuff that disappeared from your dad's house before the conservatorship was signed when you were in charge? What about the trailer that's licensed to my father that's sitting in your backyard right now? What about having to have the police come to get vehicles? Jeff, this is not the place or the time.
Hold on a minute. It sounds like there might indeed be a dispute as to property that might have been property of Donald G. Jones at the time the conservatorship was started and is not accounted for on the conservatorship inventory. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Jeffrey Jones?
Yeah, I'm saying a couple of days after the conservatorship was filed, or we were on here when you gave him the conservatorship. Everybody showed up at my dad's house and things started flying out the door. So, and I guess one thing in particular I did notice was my mother's cedar chest ended up in the back into my brother's pickup headed to Tennessee.
Other than the cedar chest, is there any specific property that you believe was part of the conservatorship and is not being accounted for on the inventory?
I don't know. I just, like I said, there was just people in and out of the house for 2 days and I had no telling what went out. It went out in black bags and went out in cars, and there was an old rocking chair that my mother had that I saw go out in the back end of somebody's car. And it's just, I don't know.
Not sure when some of this stuff happened, but when I have receipts and stuff. I sold this stuff. So, Jeff, I don't know. So
Who did you sell the cedar chest to?
I believe Kendra has that. And I have a check from her and it's in Dad's account now. So whatever we need to do, Jeff. So.
Your Honor, I think the whole point here is that Jeff is trying to grab every cent that he can get from my dad. Luckily, he's buried deep enough he can't get to his wedding ring. And B, he literally robbed him blind. The only reason we did not go forward with prosecution is because Judge Claren, I believe, requested my father's in-person appearance at the court during COVID, my 91-year-old father, and I, as guardian, refused to do it. So the prosecutor dropped the case because we could not bring my demented 91-year-old father into the middle of a public place when he was, sequestered safely at assisted living. Whatever Jeff's problems are, Jeff's the one here that he is ransacked. There are things at my father's that we have no idea what happened to. And I mean, I know what happened to it, but I can't prove it. But anything that Don has done has been above board. Any grandchildren or whatever that came in and said, I would like grandpa's this, I would like grandpa's that. He put a price on it. He put a fair price on it and said, there you go, because dad needed the money. When it became conservatorship, I'm not 100% sure anything came out the door, except for, I believe it's listed on there, I bought my parents' mattress. Now, them being, of an age, normally I wouldn't buy a used mattress, but them being of an age and knowing my dad slept downstairs for about 6 years, at the time I needed a mattress, so there we go. I believe I also bought a recliner that was purchased before my mother died 15 years ago. And I paid, as I said, everything I've gotten. I've also bought a snowblower. I bought a couple of tools. I have receipts, and I paid at or above fair market value for it because my father needed the money.
So, Mr. Donald Jones, the items that were in the conservatorship at the time you were appointed conservator that are no longer present, all of those items were sold for fair value and the proceeds deposited into the conservatorship account.
Yeah, I can give them to Mr. Kane or you or whatever. I have receipts of everything that what was sold, how much it was. It went into dad's account to pay for dad. Okay, so I don't know. So.
All right. So, Mr. Jeffrey Jones, again, I realize there's some significant animosity between you and your brothers. Are you objecting to my approval of this final account today?
As long as your approval of this doesn't get in the way of me ending up with my house or anything, then no. It's
All right.
just an account as far as I can see.
In that case, I'm going to approve the final account. Mr. Kane, you're being paid from the conservatorship estate, is that correct?
That's your determination, Your Honor. It seems appropriate in this case.
I think here, I mean, I know sometimes the county picks up the tab when there are limited assets available, but clearly there are ample assets to pay for your services. So I'm going to approve payment of your fees out of the conservatorship estate.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else, Mr. Kane, that I need to address today?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I will sign the order as soon as I'm able to get back into the courthouse. I'm sure this is probably not the end of this, but it's the end as far as the conservatorship is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
How do you do?
Yeah, I can kick you out.
Okay, thank you. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Okay, Shan, let's see. Next up is that name change. And let me see who I've got. Got a Sikorsky attorney. Good morning, Mr. Sikorsky. I'm looking for your clients.
Good morning, Your Honor. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm having to work from home,
Uh-huh.
but we'll slug through this somehow. I see Megan Morris is present.
Yes, and Lydia Serenka should be present. There we go.
Maybe they're together. I don't see who's.
They are.
Okay.
Good morning.
Okay, this is the matter of Lydia Rose Cernka.
Yes.
Okay. You don't have enough vowels in that name.
Can we buy a vowel, please?
Yes, $50. Counsel, state yours, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Lucas Sikorsky appearing on behalf of Ms. Serenka, who is appearing via Zoom.
Okay, let me get some testimony then. Let's see. The petitioner here is Ms. Morris and Mr. Cernka, correct?
So Mr. Serenka is the father of Lydia Serenka.
Oh, that's right. I'm okay. I remember now. I looked at this last night and you refreshed my memory. Ma'am, Ms. Morris, would you raise your right hand, please? You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
State your full name for the record.
Morris?
You can put your hand down. Go ahead, Mr. Sikorsky.
Yes, Your Honor. We did file this petition requesting for a name change. Ms. Lydia Rose Serenka is 17 years old. She is wishing to change her name to match that of her mother's last name. Contact between Lydia and her father is very much non-existent. He has not had parenting time in several years. This is the result of a Wayne County custody and parenting time hearing in which his parenting time was suspended until there were certain conditions that he had to meet, including some psychological testing and so on, which he had never completed. And but from my understanding is that this is very much Lydia's desire to change her last name to have the same last name as her mom.
All right, well, I need to have some testimony to establish that I can do that through the petitioner, but Lydia, let me ask you, you wish to have your last name changed to Morris?
I do, yes.
Okay. Go ahead and elicit the testimony that would allow me to grant this without the consent of the other parent.
Very well. And Your Honor, I apologize, but should I ask this of Lydia Serenka or of her mom?
Well, let's start with mom. She's a petitioner.
Very well. Ms. Morris, can you tell me when is the last time that Mrs. Serenka has had contact with Lydia?
He did call her on her birthday on November 7th and left a voicemail, but the phone call was not answered due to previous conversations. She did not want to answer it. And the voicemail, he was on drugs, he was drunk, he was not normal. It was very scary. Anybody would like to hear the voicemail, she does still have it.
When is the last time that he actually had parenting time with Lydia?
It's been at least 3 or 4 years. Oh,
And-
5 years since we've moved.
Thank you. And does Mrs. Serenka provide any financial support for Lydia?
He does not.
When is the last time that you received any type of support?
I haven't.
for Lydia?
I haven't.
When is the last time?
I haven't received any.
You've never received any child support from him?
No, sir.
And how long have you resided in the county of Jackson, Ms. Morris?
5 years.
5 years, thank you. Your Honor, I do believe that those will be all of my questions.
Ms. Morris, Has there ever been a child support order in place that ordered him to pay child support?
Yes,
And despite that order being in place, he's never made a single payment.
no, he has not.
And in terms of his ability to visit, is there anything other than restrictions imposed by the court that would have kept him from visiting his daughter?
No,
Any physical or mental impairment that would make it impractical or impossible for him to visit?
I'm sorry, I guess I'm not sure what you're asking. I know that the visitation is not necessarily wanted by either side. He does not make any effort, and she has not wanted to see him because of what has happened.
Right. The legal standard that governs my ability to order the name change at your request is that the non-custodial parent, which would be Mr. Cernka, has had the ability to visit, contact, or communicate with the child and has regularly and substantially failed or neglected to do so for a period of 2 years or more before the filing of the petition. So it's a very precise legal standard. So that's all I'm trying to get at. He could have made effort, but he's not made any effort. And that's been for at least 2 years before the petition. All right, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied based upon the testimony that the request for a name change is appropriate. It's not made for an illegal reason. The child being of age, 14 or older, has consented. In just a moment. All right, and I see that the petition itself bears, well, wait a minute, bears Lydia's signature. And Lydia, you acknowledge that you signed this and it is still your desire to have your name changed.
Yes.
All right, I will grant the name change request. Counsel, if you could submit an order to that effect, as soon as we get it, we'll get it signed, and Lydia, you will no longer be a Cernka, you'll be a Morris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome. You're welcome. Have a good day, folks.
Thank you, you too.
Just leave? Do we just leave? Do we leave?
Yeah. If you hit leave, it'll take you out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Okay, Shannon.
So.
Sorry, I muted you because someone was talking to you and it was coming over the system.
George said he was going around Marienfeld's office and we still can't connect. I've been trying periodically and I'm still getting a busy signal.
All right, I don't see.
We're still live, by the way.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
I don't see that oh, here he is. He's logged in. Let me admit everyone.
Just 4-4.
Don't have anybody.
All right, as soon as I have an audio connection with everyone, like I've got everyone except with the striped shirt. So we know who that is now, but we're still having trouble making the audio connection. Okay. Somebody might be playing YouTube. I don't know who that was, but okay. Council, could you each state your appearances, please?
Don Lovinger on behalf of the defendants, Dan Drake and Drakeland Farms.
All right, I see Mr. Trushan, but it looks like he's struggling, making a connection. And getting some help. I think they've got the audio settings off.
Your Honor, do you want me to just see if this can record? I don't know if it'll pick up any of this, but just, I mean, do you want me to just see if it will?
You're welcome to try. We will have a record by way of the YouTube recording because we're live streaming.
Okay. I just wanted to see if you wanted me to just do it, just.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. Go ahead and run it. If it picks it up, great. If it doesn't, we still have a backup available.
Okay, well, I just put us on the record in court, so we'll just see what
Right.
happens.
And this, I believe, is Drake versus Drake. Is that the caption of the case?
Burroughs versus Drake, Your Honor.
Burroughs versus Drake, pardon me. Mr. Trushan, are you able to hear me now?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay. And if you could state your appearance, please.
Certainly. George Trushan, 37255, appearing for Mr. Burroughs.
All right. I know from an email I got yesterday that trial briefs have been filed. Unfortunately, I have not yet had a chance to see them. I asked Patty to send stuff to me. It looks like she did. I'm going to pull that stuff up real quick. And take a quick look at them. I'm having to conduct the hearing from my home because I'm not able to enter the building today. All right, this one. There's the other, and I believe there were some exhibits filed. Let me get those open. Hold on. Call the With my slow internet, it's taking a little while for the exhibits to open. All right, I've got those. Are these joint exhibits or are these plaintiff's exhibits?
Mine are in a package, Judge, which was quite voluminous, and actually I'm going to pare that down today when our testimony is given, with a few to show on the screen.
All right. Well,
John only had a couple.
I have all of those exhibits open. Now let me take a quick peek at the briefs. Okay, so it looks like we've got adverse possession and acquiescence are the legal theories. Is that correct?
It is, Your Honor.
Okay. And let me look quickly at the defendant's trial brief. Okay, I've got a clear picture now of what the dispute is. Counsel, do either of you wish to make an opening statement, or are you going to rely on your briefs?
Your Honor, for plaintiff's counsel, I would waive opening statement. I will obviously have a closing once.
Okay. Mr. Lovinger?
I would waive an opening statement, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Marienfeld, call your first witness.
Well, I'm sorry, it's me. I'm at Ron's office, Judge.
I know that, and I'm sorry, George. I'm going to change the name so I don't do that again, but it's got his name on it.
Well, he's a much better lawyer than I am. So. You know, the judge didn't say, "Oh no, Judge."
Okay, now it now has the correct name associated with your image, so hopefully I won't make that mistake again. Hold on a minute. I've got a Mr. Dan Drake that looks like somehow he got off the hearing. I'm going to try to bring him back in.
That's the defendant, Your Honor. I mean, yeah.
I know we had them earlier.
They were having internet issues earlier in the morning when I spoke to them. And if they couldn't participate by internet, they were going to call in.
Yeah,
but,
we can
last I heard, they
do that. So I don't have an image. I don't know if they can hear me. Mr. Dan Drake, can you hear me? Yeah, it doesn't look like we have an audio connection.
I have him available by text, Your Honor. I'll ask him if he's in here.
So, counsel, one thing I can do is dial them in by phone. Looks like they at least can see what's going on.
Yeah,
But I can,
I can give you Dan Drake's cell phone number.
okay, give me just a second. I've got to plug in a password here. Okay, go ahead with that.
The number is 517-250-7036.
Hello? Is this Mr.
Yes.
Okay, apparently, if you could mute your computer, please. All right.
Okay. I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
We couldn't hear you over the Zoom hearing, but we can hear you over the phone. But you have to turn the sound down on your computer because we're getting feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, turn it all the way off.
Okay, it's all the way off now.
All right, you should be able to hear everyone over the speakerphone just as easily as I can. And do you have a visual connection so you can see what's going on?
Yes.
Okay, let's go forward with that then. Okay, so Mr. Trushan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you call your first witness, please?
I would like to take him out of order, Judge. I'd like to call Donald Bedzinski first because he is at work right now and I see him on the screen.
Okay, Mr. Bedzinski, would you raise your right hand, please? You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name for the record. Spell your last, please.
My full name is Donald J. Bedzinski. That's B as in boy, ENDZINSKI.
Go ahead, Mr. Trushan.
Thank you. Mr. Bedzinski, how are you employed?
I'm employed by Wolverine Engineers and Surveyors in Mason, Michigan.
Okay. And your position there, sir?
I'm the Director of Surveying.
In regard to that, sir, there became a time approximately April of the 2nd of 2020 that your company prepared, based on their view of the property, a certificate of survey for Mr. Burrows. Is that correct?
Yes.
I am holding this up right now. You should have the original there, looking at our Exhibit B. Is that the same document, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay. In regard to that document, just a few questions. When your survey group went there, They did a survey of the deed originally, the property that's indicates per legal description warranty deed. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And then based on that, they placed the objects, and I'm looking to the north, sir, that were actually two of those objects, two small squares, are small buildings. Is that correct?
Yes.
And those buildings look to be outside of the warranty deed description, overlapping onto the occupied area.
That's correct.
Right. Also, sir, I'm looking in the southeast corner. There are markers or stakes, caps found where the that corner is, showing the driveway actually goes outside of the warranty deed description and into the occupied area. Is that?
Yeah. Yes.
And that was true and accurate at the time that it was surveyed and drawn, and true and accurate today?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the occupied area is the area that my client walked off and showed your survey crew. It is not in the current deed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And that wraps from the east side to the north side and also the west side.
Yes.
All right. And I'm looking at what my client had indicated. You weren't there, so I won't go into what he indicated in regard to that, but that there are also markers in the northeast corner and northwest corner where they were caps found. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And those were originally set there based on the warranty deed description that you originally were given to come out and survey, correct?
That is correct.
There are two additional pages that are attached to this exhibit, sir, the legal description based on the survey, and then also the legal description of what my client indicates is the disputed occupied area. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So you did legal for both?
Yes.
I'd ask that people, plaintiffs propose exhibit A be admitted, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
No objection to the Wolverine survey being admitted.
I should indicate also, Your Honor, that Mr. Loveringer and I talked about, I will have no objection. The court will give whatever weight to any of these documents that you review. To also, they had a survey done.
All right, well, this survey is admitted.
Nothing further of Mr. Budzinski, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Budzinski, as part of the survey process undertaken by Wolverine, prior to the survey, were you provided with a copy of a survey completed by Ladzinski and Associates regarding the same parcel?
I don't believe I did have a copy of his survey, no.
Okay. And since you did the survey, have you been provided with a copy of that survey?
I would have to take a look through the file to see if it's in there. I did find Mr. Lodzinski's capped irons out there, so I knew that he did do the survey of the parcel prior to us coming out there, yes.
Okay, so you either became aware of a prior survey at that time or may have known that another survey was done,
yes.
Not you had the map, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's safe to say that your survey of the 1.00 acre parcel as described in the legal description of the warranty deed referenced on your survey was consistent with survey irons that you found that Ladzinski had placed, correct?
That is correct.
And the descriptions on your survey of what is referred to as occupied area by written statements on your survey were based upon representations made to you by Mr. Burrows of areas that he claimed that he had occupied, correct?
That is correct.
Now, there were a few monuments that you found. You've indicated that you found survey stakes, I believe, on the northeast corner of Mr. Burrows' property, the northwest corner. It looks like you found one on the southwest corner and the southeast corner as well. Is that true?
That's true. These are irons that were set by Mr. Lodzinski.
And those irons are consistent with the actual legal description of the property, correct?
That is correct.
In addition, up on the northern boundary of the property, there were two structures, one larger than the other, and they appear to encroach the northern boundary of Mr. Burrows' property and the southern boundary of the property to the north. In the case of the larger building, which is in the northeast corner, it's over at a maximum about 1 foot 3 inches and at a minimum about 0.8 feet. And then also there's a smaller shed that appears to be over somewhere between 1.9 and 2.2 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In the southeast corner of the described property, there's a driveway, and it appears that the eastern portion of that driveway encroaches over the boundary line from a minimum of about 1.3 feet up around the mid portion of the eastern boundary of Mr. Burrows' property, and then down where the southeast stake was found, it's approximately 6.6 feet over onto the property to the east. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. It then begins to sort of fan out in a southeasterly direction to a distance of about 18 feet, correct?
Yes.
Based on your physical observation of the area, was it clear that this was being used as a driveway? Was the grass worn down to dirt or gravel?
I didn't physically see it. My survey crew was out there. That's what they told me was, and showed me and mapped, was that this was a usable driveway for Mr. Burrows. Yes.
Okay. And so some of that was based on their observation and some of that was based on Mr. Burrows' representation that he'd been using it as a driveway, correct?
This would have been based on exactly what we mapped when we were out there for the existing driveway.
Okay. The remaining area to the east of where the driveway is depicted on, and again, Your Honor, I'm making reference really to the plaintiff's exhibit, and then the defendant has an exhibit of the Lodzinski survey, which you've been provided. But the remaining portion of the occupied area to the east of Mr. Burrows' surveyed and descripted boundary is all based on representations made by Mr. Burrows to your survey crew, correct?
That's correct.
And similarly to the north of his described boundary, that's all based on his representation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And also to the west, correct?
Yes.
Other than the driveway in the southeast corner and the two structures that are up in the northeast corner of Mr. Burrows' described parcel, there's no depiction of any other monuments, fences, gates, anything like that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Sir, the council asked you about the found cap in the southeast corner. Now, that driveway has been there for years and years. Your group indicated that it wasn't just something that in fact had been either recently paved or something like done like that. That driveway was a driveway to that property, correct?
That's correct.
There are no other driveways to that property, are there, off a Wooden Road?
No, there are no other driveways.
So that would be the only place that cars would park. Any trailers, anything like that would be on that property and through that driveway.
Yes.
Nothing further this witness, Your Honor.
Just one follow-up, and Mr. Bazinski, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but on your survey drawing, this driveway is depicted. What I'm not seeing are any depictions of how wide that driveway is, either at its northern portion or down to the south where it fans out. Are you aware of how wide that driveway is?
I would have to scale it off the drawing in order to tell you that. We didn't put any dimensions on it.
Okay, I have no further questions.
I just have a couple of redirects here.
Okay.
My question, sir, is as you look to the driveway on the dotted lines that's depicted on the survey, there are the lines that go over the property both to the east and to the west. Is that correct? You see the dotted lines that fan out?
Yes.
Okay. And council asked you at the maximum point where the found cap is, that in fact, that was 6 point something feet. But as those lines go further, you see them, how they turn to the east before it gets to the roadway. That's much larger, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any idea what that feet is? Because if I look at where the cap found is that Mr. Lovinger was asking about, that was 6.3 or 4 inches, 6 feet, 3, 4 inches. If you go out further, that looks to be 2 or 3 times that amount.
That's correct. I could scale it off if you wanted me to, but it's right now it's just we're estimating. Yes.
Well, I'm trying to give the judge an idea. If I look, sir, at the cap found and follow those dotted lines for the driveway that your crew put in there, that goes, if that piece right there from the cap until it goes to the end of the property that Mr. Burrows has represented, the occupied area, that goes about 2/3 of that. So if you take 2/3 of 40 feet, that driveway is some 25 to 30 feet minimum into the property.
I'm going to object to the question, and I will direct the court and Mr. Trushan's attention to the stipulated defendant's exhibit number 1, which is the Lodzinski survey, which actually depicts the distance between the southeast found iron and the eastern portion of the driveway at that point as 6.6 feet 6 inches. And then as we proceed further to the south, and the driveway fans out, it's 18 feet.
Well, let me interject here. I've been wanting to ask some questions. First of all, the only survey drawing that was furnished to me, and let me make sure of that. I didn't scroll all the way through the exhibits. Yes, now I've done that. There's just a single drawing. That drawing does not have any dimensions to show the distance between the monument that's located within the driveway and the eastern edge of that driveway. So I don't know where those numbers are coming from. Is there another drawing somewhere that
you mailed to the court a map of survey performed by Lodzinski and Associates, and that is the survey that Mr. Bedzinski has made reference to finding their capped irons. That was sent weeks ago, and we can have my assistant resend it.
I don't doubt that, counsel. I didn't know until yesterday that there was a decent chance I wasn't going to be able to get back into the courthouse. I asked someone to email the documents to me, and I got those emails this morning, but unfortunately, it looks like the one that has the survey that you intended didn't come through. Can I ask you to re-forward that to me? Is that possible?
Yeah, I will have my assistant scan and email this survey to you. What is your email address that we are to send it to?
Send it to LaFlamme
Is that
at mjackson.org.
Okay. And you need to have you say that again. It broke up. Mark LaFlamme.
No, R.
R, got it. Lowercase.
R, LaFlamme at mijackson.org.
Okay. I just want to make sure I spell it correctly.
Were there any other exhibits in that submission other than this survey?
No, this was our only exhibit.
Okay. As soon as I get that, I'll see if I have any more questions for the witness.
Okay, just want to make sure it says rlaflemme at jackson.org.
No, M.I. Jackson.
M.I. Jackson.
And LaFlamme is spelled just like my name is, rlaflamme at mijackson.org.
.org. Okay, I will have my assistant send that to you immediately, okay?
Now, as to the objection, Mr. Trushan, I really, I'm going to sustain the objection, but frankly, I can tell from the picture that's later on in the exhibits that were submitted that this driveway fans out and occupies a wider portion of the claimed occupied property. I don't need to know what the specific dimensions are.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just wanted to make sure it was for clarity.
Okay, so I'm going to watch my email because I want to see if I have any more questions for the surveyor. Let me ask this. I don't need that exhibit. Mr. Benzinski, you actually went out and walked this property?
I did not, Your Honor. I have a survey crew that does my field work for me.
Okay, so where the lines of occupation are listed, you're not able to tell me from personal knowledge whether there's anything obvious that lines up with this line of occupation.
I cannot personally tell you that. The only thing I can do is relay to you the information that was provided to me by the field crew. And they indicated that there was the areas that they mapped here and the dimensions that are shown are based on like a lawn area, usable area, something other than farm field.
The edge of a lawn.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. If there were some other physical feature in that vicinity, is that something your survey crew would have noted? And
yes, Your Honor.
Put it on your survey?
Yes, Your Honor. And then just to comment here that up in the northeast corner, there were a couple of good-sized trees growing. They located those also.
Give me just a moment to get back to that.
All right.
Yeah, I see the trees.
Yeah.
Okay, still waiting on an email.
Probably now being sent.
Okay.
Hey, Your Honor, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that we can do Zoom now.
Okay. Let me let that in. Just a second and see if you're in the waiting room. Yes, I see it.
Okay, yeah, because I got a different message up. Oh, there we are.
All right, so Shannon, mute your phone, otherwise we're going to get feedback.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Now,
nope. Never, nope. It says my microphone is muted.
yeah, you're getting sound over the Polycom. Well, you should be. Shannon, can you hear me over the Polycom?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, let me go back to my email. Here we go. Let me get that opened up. And I gotta rotate it. So I'm looking at the Lodzinski survey. I see it's got a date on it. Looks like August 24th of 2019. Let me make it a little larger, make sure I can read everything.
I think it's September 24th.
See that now, September 24th of 2019. Is Mr. Lodzinski one of the witnesses that's going to testify?
We had not called him to testify because at the pretrial conference, his survey by stipulation was going to be admitted as an exhibit.
So let me ask Mr. Beninsky, do you have any way of knowing when the monuments that your crew found at the corners of this parcel were set?
I would set, or I would say, or I would assume anyway, that they were set when Mr. Lodzinski did the survey in, what did you say, August or September?
Okay.
When his survey was dated there, which is typical.
And I see set cap rebar for the four corners. The legend also shows another symbol for found as noted, but I don't see that appearing on the survey itself. Do you?
I believe
Mr.
what it says is that at the southeast corner, he found somebody, Mr. Lodzinski found a Harrison monument. I think that's what he's depicting.
I'm not seeing it though.
Oh, I think it's at the same place where his is.
Why would he set a new monument if he found one there? That wouldn't be typical, would it, Mr. Benzinski?
It would not. And we didn't discover any other irons other than the one set by Mr. Lodzinski.
Actually, Your Honor, in looking at Mr. Lodzinski's survey drawing, I believe both the southeast and the southwest corners are not set irons by him, but in fact are found iron from Harrison.
All right, hold on just a minute. I'm making my image a little bigger. Well, let me ask, Mr. Benzinski, do you have the Lodzinski survey with you now?
No, sir, I do not. I looked in my file and I never did receive a copy of it. If that's something that could be emailed to me also, I could take a look at right now.
The reason I'm not seeing, if you look in the legend for Mr. Lodzinski's survey, very specific indicator of a set monument, which is a circle within a circle, it looks like. And you have a very distinct found as noted in the legend, which is basically just a donut. I don't see a donut anywhere on this drawing. I don't see any indication that he found any monuments here.
Oh, it's there.
He does indicate that he found a corner monument, but it doesn't really have a donut logo on it.
I think if you look at the two, their quarter corners or their portions of the section, I think that's where he's indicating that he found the Harrison monuments.
Yeah.
The others would appear that he set them based on the legend. And that's consistent with the witness's testimony that all four corners he had found a Lodzinski iron.
Yes.
Okay, and you did not find any other monuments at the four corners of this parcel?
No.
Okay, thank you. Counsel, I don't know if you have more questions of the witness prompted by mine, but I've had my questions answered.
I just have one quick one, and that is, Mr. Bedzinski, it is true that on your survey, although it's not perhaps stated as such, when you get to the south of both the southeast and the southwest found caps, you are in fact within a right of way, correct?
Those caps are set for, they do mark the right of way. This is typical on our surveys. They are right on the right of way line, or they demark the right of way line. Yes, correct.
The description of the property owner actually owns further to the south, subject to the right of way, correct?
That is correct.
And so the driveway that's depicted in the southeast corner, significant portions of that driveway are actually in the right of way, correct?
That is correct.
No further questions.
I just had a couple, Judge.
Go ahead.
Sir, I know you don't have the survey, but it's been admitted, and I'm looking at the survey. And I believe the judge and counsel have their copy of the Lodzinski survey. It says over 6.6 feet at the capped area. But then it goes further to say, albeit the right of way that my client still owns is over 18 feet. And that would be consistent with your drawing, sir, the certificate of survey showing it over, you know, let's say the 6.6 that Mr. Levenger was talking about at the cap to the east, and then fans out over my client's property, which I'm using their figures now, so 18 feet or more till it gets to Wooden Road.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
All right, any further questions, this witness, counsel?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you for your testimony, and well, it looks, oh, there you are. Okay, I couldn't find you on the screen. You certainly may be excused, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Trushan, call your next witness.
Thank you, Mr. David Boylan.
Okay, and where's Mr. Boylan?
He might be with Don Burrows. I think those folks didn't have internet up there. So they're in a room in Parma, Springport. So they should be under Don Burrows, Judge.
You know, I think that image is frozen. I'm wondering if they can hear us. I don't think we've got a connection. We've got an image, but the image is frozen. I don't think they're able to hear us.
I'm going to call him right now, Judge, and see if I can. Hey, Don, your image is frozen. Can you log back in? Okay. Randy Burrows. All right, we'll get him on. Thank you. Okay. Randy Burrows is online. I'll do him right now then. Judge, they are trying to fix the freeze in regard to that. If I could call Randy Burrows instead, I believe he's online already.
We find out. Is Randy Burrows present?
What? Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Burrows, I'm going to put you under oath.
Yep, that's fine.
Would you raise your right hand, please?
Yep.
You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
State your full name, spell your last.
Randy W. Burrows, B-U-R-R-O-U-G-H-S.
Go ahead, Mr. Chan.
Thank you. Mr. Burrows, do you have in front of you a copy or be able to look at the certificate of survey that I have been speaking from in regard to Wolverine Engineers?
Yes.
Are you looking at that now?
Yep, I am.
Okay. This is the property that your brother owns that you have been at several times?
Since probably mid-'80s. I'm not sure when exactly bought it, but I'd say probably since the mid-'80s.
Okay. And so you've continuously been to your brother's property, the property on this survey?
Yes.
All right. And in regard to that, sir, are you familiar as you stand on Wooden Road and look to the north and the east corner? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but you broke up on me. Go ahead.
Okay.
One more time.
Certainly.
On the road to where?
If you're on Wooden Road,
yep,
and you're standing in the southeast corner of your brother's property.
Right. Okay.
There's a driveway there. Is that
right.
correct?
Yep. Correct.
How long, if you know, has that driveway been there?
Forever.
Well, okay. Your brother bought the property in 1985. Is that correct?
When did he buy it? I don't remember. Mid-'80s, I thought.
Okay.
I don't know when.
All right. In the mid-'80s.
All right.
He bought the property. Was that driveway there when you visited the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In regard to property to the east of that corner that your brother bought by deed, what was there in the mid-'80s?
Grass.
Okay. And would there be any vehicles parked on that property?
No.
Okay. It was all grass?
Yes. That I remember, yeah.
Okay. Who maintained that property?
He did.
All right. You know if there were, if your brother or you were there when any markers were placed by your brother in regard to that property?
No, we never did that. I didn't. No.
Okay. And that property, when's the last time you've been to the property?
Last summer.
And was it the same way, the same width in that? Could you tell? Had anything changed?
I would assume it was, yeah. I mean, I pulled in and left.
Okay.
You know?
And you looked at the property?
Yes.
And it was still being mowed and taken care of by your brother at that time?
Well, I thought it actually shrunk myself.
Okay. But there was property to the east of the driveway.
Right.
That was being cut. Is that your testimony?
Well, it was being cut by him years ago, but then I called him and I asked him, I said, hey, what'd you do? Rent your land out? And he kind of laughed at me. And I said, well, it looks to me like somebody's encroached on your property a little bit.
So you're saying the original portion years ago that somebody now was doing something on that property the last time you were there this year?
I don't know who's doing it because I don't live down. I live in Gaylord, Michigan. I would
Oh,
say
what-
somebody's farming his property. That's
Okay,
my
so,
take on it.
all right, that's what I wanted to get to. What you observed. Somebody had gone onto the property and attempted to till the property?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm looking at Exhibit E on photographs number 1. Do you have that in front of you, sir?
Yes, I do.
Okay, it's a large photo. I'm holding mine up in regard to that.
Yep.
Can you
got it.
identify that photo?
That's his house with his cars and stuff in front of it.
Okay, and the property to the east, sir,
So what
shows
way?
that the,
Which way?
to the east?
To the east?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
It's up again. So I'm looking to the property to the east in regard to that. From where the driveway is, okay, do you see the driveway?
Yep, I do.
Okay. As you looked at it, how much to the east, how much land do you estimate was there that was being taken care of and trimmed and cut?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the question. I don't think there's been a proper foundation. There's no indication you ever did any measurements.
I'm just asking you for an approximate, Judge.
I'm saying probably 30, 40 foot.
Okay.
I'll allow it, understanding that he didn't measure it. Give me just a moment. I'm trying to find that photograph.
It's probably real dark in regard to being copied, Judge. I brought the actual copy into the courtroom today.
And that photograph is from probably what, in the late 80s, early 90s?
It looks like that's an aerial photograph.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Okay, I don't think I've got that.
It's in my exhibit, Judge, that we had.
I
That we filed in
understand
court.
that you say it's in there. I'm looking at Smart Exhibit E.
Yes.
I've got a couple overhead aerials that have an approximate blue boundary line on it. Is that what you're showing me?
No, Judge, this is a photograph of an aerial that was
That's what I
had.
thought. It's not in the package that you emailed.
There's like 4 cars.
I didn't email any, Judge. I dropped them off.
Oh.
I don't believe I was provided one.
You have your copy, John?
I don't think that I have all your other photographs, but I don't believe, I'm looking through them now. I don't believe that one is one that I have, but
It came out very dark. So even though it's this one, it came out very dark.
Okay, I do see it. It's near the end of in the stack that I got, it's the third from the end.
Okay.
And it looks like it's from a picture frame. Is that right?
That is correct. My client commandeered a aerial photo company to take a complete photo 4 years after he purchased the property.
All right, give me a moment. I've got to.
If you blow it up, it's 1989. If you blow that picture up, you'll see 1989 on it. At the bottom on the right. Burroughs home.
I see that marker on the frame itself. And then, I don't know, it's got a handwritten date, but obviously that couldn't have been the date when this was taken.
At the bottom, Judge, it says 1989.
At the bottom of the picture, it says 1989. Burroughs
Yeah,
House.
I see that. The copy of paper that image is on has a date beneath it, handwritten, that says April 16, 2020, 10:46 a.m.
That's when he took the photograph of that old photo and gave to my office.
Okay. All right, so I now have the image in front of me, so go ahead with your question.
All right, Mr. Burrows, I know it's tough because you don't live there and are only there sporadically, but the driveway I indicated, that has never changed, is correct?
Not that I could think of. No.
Okay, and that property that I'm talking about east of the driveway, has it ever been torn the first 30 or 40 feet to the driveway?
You broke up. I didn't hear what?
Certainly. Has the next to the driveway, I know it's tough,
Right.
next to the driveway, if you go 30 or 40 feet to the east, was there any corn there right up to the driveway?
No, not till I think, I don't even remember. I came back from Florida a couple years ago, stopped in to see my brother, wasn't home. And I said, hey, did you sell your property around you or what? Because he's planting your corn right on your driveway and next to your house. So that's what I was joking with him about.
Yeah. Okay. Very
But
good.
I don't ever remember being 5 foot or 10 foot from the driveway. No.
Okay. All right. Nothing further to this witness, Your Honor.
Cross?
Mr. Burrows, you yourself are not a land surveyor, correct?
No, but I know how to do it because I've bought a lot of property.
But you didn't survey this property, did you?
No, I did not. Did you?
I have a survey.
Sir,
Neither have I.
sir, you, hold on. We have rules.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The lawyers get to ask the question.
All right, that's fine.
You get to answer the question.
I
You
know.
don't get to ask questions.
I'm not going to be belittled, though, lawyer or judge. Go
He's
ahead.
not, sir, it was a fair question.
All right.
He wasn't belittling you. He's making a point. Just answer the question.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So you say you first visited the property after your brother acquired it sometime in the mid 80s, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you've already said well, let me ask you this. Did you ever take even a tape measure out and measure any distances from?
I just told the last lawyer no.
Okay. When you say you observed this driveway and a grassy area to the east of the driveway before the farm field, you really have no way of knowing exactly who the owner of the grassy area was, do you?
No, I don't. But that's why when I was there, I called my brother, joking with him, if he was farming his property out. I just said that, if you listen to what I said a minute ago.
Okay,
I
so
mean-
you personally observed that area of grass to the east of the driveway, based on your observation, at one time was wider before it got to the farm field, and then on a more recent visit, you
Right.
noticed that it was narrower.
Correct. On the east and the west.
Okay. Now, you say you came back from Florida. You visited the property in the mid 80s. Was there a time period where you weren't at the property very regularly because you lived out of state?
No, I've always lived in Michigan. I've lived in Gaylord, Michigan for the last 40 years of my life.
Okay.
I went to Florida for a winter 2 years ago. On the way home for spring, I came home, stopped
Okay.
to see if he was there.
And at that point, you noticed what you perceived that strip of grass was narrower than before.
Correct.
I have no further questions.
Any
Nothing
redirect,
further this
Mr.
witness, Your Honor.
Truchette?
Nothing
Okay.
further this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows.
Can I leave? I got a doctor's appointment.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day. Okay, Mr. Truchette, next witness.
All right, Judge, I'm trying to get back my photo here. Can I have just 1 second, Judge? I seem to have lost the photo for a second. Can you hear me?
Ken,
I guess I would call, excuse me, Daniel Burrows.
all right, looks like we might have to use the phone again. He's at the same location that Randy Burrows was at? And I can use a conference feature on my phone and bring him in, but they're having trouble making a connection. My guess is their internet isn't very good.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Thank you.
The image keeps freezing, George. They don't have a good enough internet connection that this is going to work.
Okay, you want them just to call in, Judge?
Well, let's try. Right now they're muted. Let me see what we can get here. I'll ask them to unmute. Is he on the screen that says Don Burrows?
I saw his picture there, Judge.
Right
Mr.
there?
Burrows, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Is your brother there with you?
Let me get closer to the mic. What's that again?
I said, is your brother Daniel Burrows there with you?
The internet connection is not going to work. I'm going to make a telephone call. I'll conference him in with this phone, but I'm going to need his number.
Okay, 517 93, I'm sorry, 517, give me 1 second, 879 3366.
What was the middle 3 digits?
879 3366.
All right, I'm going to try to patch him in. You folks that are already on this call, if I lose you, I'll dial you back, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. I had my... Well, it's not letting me unmute.
I've already talked to her about it. They have a list of stuff to do.
Well, I'm having trouble with my phone now. Folks that are at the 7036 number, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know what went wrong with that call, but it looks like we've lost them. I'm going to hang up this call and try to dial both numbers again.
Okay.
Make sure I've written it down.
Mr. Burrows, can you hear me?
It appears Mr. Burrows is connected through a computer and also is using his phone, and I'm wondering if that's causing an issue.
It probably is. Let me see what I can do here.
Okay, now talk.
Oh, can you hear me? This is Don.
Okay, I just dialed somebody with my phone. I don't remember who was at this number. What's your name?
Don Burrows.
That's my client, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. Well,
Am I on the telephone or computer?
well, Mr. Levenger, I think I had your client on the phone, but they're not responding when I speak to them.
Well, you haven't asked for Dan. Can you hear us?
Don?
No, Dan Drake.
Dan Drake.
Dan, are you there?
Yeah.
Trying to talk to Dan Drake.
Finally, think we're struggling with some limited cell signals and limited internet. So Mr. Drake, I unmuted you on the computer.
Okay, thanks.
There he
Mr.
is.
Drake?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very good. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then I think I have Mr. Burrows in this other screen, but we're having trouble hearing him. Mr. Burrows, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right, well, let's see what we can do here. Let's give it a shot.
Okay.
Donald, is your brother Daniel right there?
No, Daniel cannot make it, George. I got Carl here.
All right, Mr. Donald Burrows, would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
I want you to sit in front of the camera so I can see you.
Okay.
All right, you do, raise your right hand, please. You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, state your full name. You can put your hand down. State your full name for the record.
Carlton James Burrows. I go by Carl.
All right, hold on. We've got all kinds of feedback going on.
Sit over here.
I think they need to mute their computer.
I didn't hear that, Judge.
Yeah.
Is that better?
I just clicked the mute button. Let's see if that works. Yeah, the connection is so poor, it's not even responding to my command. I'm usually
How
able
about
to
now?
mute the computer.
Pardon?
I can hear him now, Judge.
It's not going to work, George. It's too sketchy. So here's what I'm going to do. Mr. Burrows, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear.
All right. I want you to hang up this line. I'm going to call you on that line rather than try to talk over the Zoom hearing, okay?
Okay. Knock this out. No.
All right, I just removed that from the hearing. They were having trouble. Now I'm going to try dialing that phone number again, 879-3366.
That's correct, Judge.
Mr. Levenger, I don't think your client, well, hold on, I'm sorry. He did come on the computer screen, so I'm sorry, I forgot. All right, let me try to dial this in.
You know how long it would proceed.
Oh, this is Don.
Hey, this sounds much better. So, Mr. Burrows, I'm going to put you under oath now. Raise your right hand, please. You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, turn the sound down on your computer.
Is this better?
Yeah, if you walk away, that'll work, and then the others can hear.
Okay, I walked away.
All right. I don't know if I asked you to state your full name. I'm going to do it again just to make sure.
Okay, Carlson James Burrows, but I go by Carl.
You go by Carl. Okay.
Yeah. My full name is Carlton.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Trushan.
Good morning, Mr. Burrows.
Pretty good.
Mr. Burrows, I'm gonna try to be right on the point in regard to this. And that is, do you have a copy of the certificate of survey for your brother's property by you?
Yes, it's right in front of me.
All right. And I'm talking about a couple things. You see where it's the inside of the deeded property with the house and deck on it. Do you see that part?
See what?
Okay, let me start again. On the certificate of survey, there's a survey drawn lines with the legal description of your brother's property and home. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you see on the east side, north side, and the west side, the surveyors indicated that's occupied area as directed by your brother, Don Burrows. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you see on the east side, sir, that it shows your brother indicated anyway, some 40.4 feet? Do you see that?
Yes. Yes.
So let me get to the point. On that property that I'm describing that your brother indicated he believes is his, that occupied section, are you familiar with that portion? If you take a driveway, sir, and go 40 feet.
Yes.
Okay. So to your recollection, when you've been out there, what has been placed on that property, if anything?
Nothing.
I'm sorry?
Nothing's been placed on it that it wasn't there to start with.
Well, I guess let's talk about what was there to start with. I mean, what I'm asking, sir, is this. Were there any vehicles? Were there any cars, trucks, trailers, anything placed on that property?
Well, the driveway was there, and so was the two buildings to the north.
Okay, you're talking about the two buildings on the north part, the two sheds on the north part of the property?
Yes.
Okay, those have always been there, correct?
Yes, they have.
Okay, and as you look at the survey, do you see the portion of showing the driveway with dotted lines?
Yes. Yes.
Is that the only driveway in and out of your brother's property that you recall from being there?
Yes.
On that driveway, in that area to the east, have you ever viewed any vehicles being parked there?
Yes.
Okay. Whose vehicles would those have been?
I think they were just visitors or mine.
Okay. How about your brother's? Does he park his vehicles on there?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who maintained the property on the occupied area, that map?
I didn't hear you good.
So I couldn't hear you, sir.
He said he couldn't hear you, George. Repeat your question.
I said, sir, do you know who maintained that property?
Yes, he's always maintained it.
Okay. Have you ever been on that property to do any work on that property with your brother?
Helped him move in.
Okay, all right. So you've known the property, it's been the same driveway and the same sheds and everything else since he bought it in 1989 or 1985?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So what I'm saying is they haven't built a new driveway. They haven't done anything different in regard to it whatsoever. Your brother didn't put another driveway in, or this one being new. It's always been there since 1985.
Yes, sir.
All right. Nothing further this witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Lovinger.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. You've been visiting the property periodically since 1985 when your brother bought it?
Yes.
Okay. And when he bought it, there was this driveway that's located sort of in the southeast corner of the survey you've been looking at. And Is that correct?
Yes,
And it's a gravel driveway, correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And to the east of the gravel driveway is a section of grass and that goes over to a farm field, correct?
Over to a what field?
To a farm field.
Yes,
Okay. And that strip of grass between the driveway and the farm field may have changed in its width over time, correct?
yeah, there's been plowing on it.
What's that?
I said, somebody's been plowing on it.
Okay. Recently, you've noticed someone's plowed on it?
Yes,
Okay. So that perhaps that grassy area at one time was wider than you think it is now?
oh, definitely.
Okay. Now, you're not a surveyor, correct?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And you've never taken a measuring tape out and measured the distance between the east edge of the driveway and the beginning of the farm field, have you?
No,
And you yourself really don't know who owns the grassy area that's to the east of the driveway, do you?
all I know is it's the same as what he used to be, but now it's been down through it.
Okay, it was grassy when he bought it. It's still grassy, although its width has changed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Can you redirect, Mr. Trushan? I'm sorry, George, I didn't hear you.
I said no further redirect, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burrows. Who's your next witness, Mr. Trushan?
Dave Boylan?
Dave Boylan.
Yes, sir, right here.
Okay. Mr. Boylan, would you raise your right hand, please?
It's raised.
You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do, sir.
State your full name, then spell your last.
David Charles Boylan, B-O-Y-L-A-N.
Go ahead, Mr. Trushan.
Mr. Boylan, how do you know Mr. Burrows, Don Burrows?
I worked with Don for 20 plus years, car hauling with him just recently.
And are you familiar with where he lives at 12200 Wooden Road?
Yes, I am.
Have you been to that property several times?
Well, plenty of times in the last years.
Okay. In regard to that, sir, you're familiar with, are you looking at the photograph that has been admitted of the property aerial photo, sir?
Certificate of survey.
I'm sorry?
And I have the certificate of survey and the property photo.
Okay. I'm first of all looking, sir, at the photograph. And I'm on that photograph, sir, there is a driveway that goes out to Wooden Road. Do you see that? Some vehicles parked on it?
Yeah, drop all the
Okay. In regard to that, sir, is that the same the way it looked when you visited the property, the driveway?
Yeah, it's been the same way as long as I've known Don.
Okay. And in regard to the north corner of the lot, there's a couple of sheds back there. Were those sheds there when you visited Don through the years?
Yes, sir. They were back there also. Always been there since I've known Don.
In regard to your personal view of the property and this photograph, sir, from the eastern edge of the driveway over, how much grass are you estimating is there in feet?
From the driveway to the cornfield?
Yes, sir. Correct.
I'm going to say about 30 feet or so.
One more time, you said how much feet?
Approximately 30 feet or more.
Okay. And does it look like that property has been maintained?
Yes, sir. It's been maintained the same since I've known Don.
Okay. And I'm talking about cutting the grass, taking care of it, planting. Was there ever a garden on that property?
He had a garden along the back side of the property on the north side at one time.
Okay. And in regard to parking vehicles, any kind of vehicles, trucks, cars, trailers, anything whatsoever, did you ever see that parked on the property to the east?
I've seen him park plenty of vehicles on his property, semi-trailers and cars and what have you.
Okay. Nothing further this one, Your
Honor. Cross-exam?
Mr. Boylan, you say you've been visiting the property for about the last 20 years, or has it been longer than that?
20 years and a few months, approximately till July, it'll be 21 years.
Okay, so since about 1999?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you said you have this survey, and in the survey on the southeast corner of the survey, there's depicted the gravel driveway, correct?
Correct.
And you're familiar, having visited the property, that between the gravel driveway and the farm field to the east is a strip of grass, correct?
Correct.
Now, the parking of the vehicles, did that take place mainly in the driveway?
Yes.
Okay.
Times where he is driven down the grass side, but he parks all of his vehicles in the driveway.
Okay. And currently he may have a couple of utility trailers parked in that driveway?
Yes, currently.
Okay. And there's still a strip of grass between there and the farm field, correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And have you noticed whether that strip of land on the east side appears to be more narrow than it maybe was 20, 21 years ago?
More narrow?
Meaning there's more
field? I wouldn't say it has changed at all since I've known Don.
Okay. Now, you again, you're not a land surveyor, correct?
I am what?
You're not a land surveyor, correct?
No, I am not.
And you've not measured out distances between driveways and farm fields or anything like that, correct?
No, I have not.
And you indicated that there was a garden that Mr. Don Burrows maintained at one time up in the northern portion of his property. You don't know, you can't really tell us looking at the survey exactly where that was because you've never measured it out, correct?
Looking at the survey, there's nothing on the survey about the garden, but I know he had it along the back side of his property.
Okay, maybe in the area of those sheds that are in the northeast corner?
Yeah, on the west side of the sheds, along the edge of the cornfield.
Okay.
The middle of his property, back in that way.
Right. And again, other than representations that Mr. Burrows may have made to you, you don't know who owns these grassy strips to the east and the north of Mr. Burrows' property, correct?
I do not know who owns it. I just know that he has had that property the whole time I've known him. What he has maintained.
Right. He's mowed the lawn.
Correct.
Okay. No further questions.
Any redirect Mr. Truchan?
Nothing of this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boylan.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to take a very, very short break. I'm going to leave the record open and the live stream going, but I need to step away for just a minute or two. And you're welcome to do so as well, gentlemen.
Oh, no, go ahead. They're going to break. Here's my driveway. This survey says
Hey, George, you may tell your people to mute their phones.
Yeah, I can. I guess I shouldn't give them a call though, because they're using their phone, correct?
Dan, can you mute your phone for till the hearing starts again?
Are you talking to me, Don Burrows?
Dan Drake, if you could mute your computer while we're in the recess.
Yes, they're gonna go in recess. How long are you gonna go in recess?
What was that?
How long are we gonna go ahead and go in recess? And can
It's
you,
only about 5 minutes.
for what, leave it on?
Yeah, leave it open, Don, so we don't lose connection.
Okay, I'll leave it on. Do you need Dave Boylan anymore?
What did you say, Don?
Do you need Dave Boylan anymore?
I do not. I'm just going to have Dennis Cunningham and you.
Okay, I can turn him loose then. You said turn Dave Boylan loose then?
Okay, gentlemen, I'm back. Yeah, Mr. Boylan is free to leave if he would like to.
Correct, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have everyone back?
Yep, I got Danny Cunningham.
All right, is that your next witness, Mr. Trushan?
It is, Your Honor, Dennis Cunningham.
Okay, here he is.
Okay. Mr. Cunningham, would you raise your right hand, please?
It's raised.
You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name, spell your last.
Dennis Allen Cunningham, Cunningham.
Go ahead, Mr. Trushan.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham, good morning. I'll try to be brief with you. How long have you known Mr. Burrows and or the Drakes?
Donnie and I go back quite a ways, probably 38 years or so.
Okay, and Mr. and Mrs. Drake?
I've known Dan Drake, who was on the Pulaski Township Board for many years, and have always respected him. His wife has always been nice to me and so on, and I have no complaints about him at this time.
Okay. How long do you think you've known those people? About the same amount of years?
I didn't hear you. Would you repeat that, please?
Certainly. I'm assuming you've known the Drakes for quite a few years.
Yes, Danny has been nice to me in the past with colostrum milk for my cats that need some extra boost. And I taught both of his kids in school when I did some substitute teaching in Jonesville schools.
Okay,
and I've always had a
Dennis, how long have you known these folks?
How long have I known the Drakes? Probably 40 years.
Okay, all right. So let me ask you this. Were you involved in the sale of this property from the Drakes to Burrows back in 1985?
Yes, I was the real estate salesperson and broker who had the listing on the property, and we got a purchase agreement and solidified it. And then Donnie Burrows and his wife Cindy went and got a mortgage. The mortgage survey was done, title insurance was issued, termite inspection, and all the things that go along with closing a deal on a piece of real estate.
All right. In regard to this property, sir, at 12200 Wooden Road, I'm looking at the photograph, the aerial photograph that my client had commandeered and commissioned back in 85. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And as you look at that, sir, is that the way the property appeared at the time that Mr. and Mrs. Burrows bought the property from Mr. and Mrs. Drake?
Yes, they provided, of course, a legal description. The property is as is in the photograph. The garden that they used to grow was on the north side. They had an outside pool. I've known Don and Cindy a lot of years and so on. And the property was, as far as I'm concerned, was represented as it is in the photograph. And I do not think that Don ever expanded it in any way.
Okay, all right. Let me talk to you about a couple of things. Number one, the driveway there, sir, is that the way it looked in 1989 when you viewed the property?
That is correct. It's
all right.
Everything is pretty much the same as it was, to my knowledge. There was one big walnut, not a walnut tree, but a hickory tree that did go down, and I came over and helped him cut that up and get rid of it.
So let's talk for a second, Dennis, about the driveway. I'm looking at the photo and the certificate of survey. You see on the survey that the dotted line where the driveway is actually go over onto the occupied area that my client is claiming should be his. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So now looking at the photo, sir, where you see the vehicles parked, there looks to be, and I'll just estimate, 30 or 40 feet or more from a grassy area that was maintained. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Your testimony already has been that as the photograph is depicting, that is accurate at the time of the sale of the property, correct?
You faded out, George. Repeat your question.
Certainly. Mr. Cunningham, my question is, as you compare the certificate of survey now that's been admitted, showing the dotted lines of the driveway going into that eastern grass, you see that on the survey? Okay. My question.
Just a moment, I'm looking, I see where there's a dotted line. Farm field is noted, and so on. What you're asking is what?
My question is that the driveway that you see in the photograph is the same driveway that is in the certificate of survey with the dotted lines. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, based on what I am able to see, I would have to concur with that.
Okay. And again, the property on the photograph, it's all been maintained all the way around, both to the north, surrounded by cornfields on the east, the north, and the west. All that property, in fact, has been maintained by Mr. Donald Burrows. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I can tell you this, that if we had any indication from the seller that the property was cut through the driveway, it is my estimation that there would have been no sale because it would have made the property a little bit more difficult to sell.
Okay, all right. And the sellers of this property were Mr. and Mrs. Drake.
That is correct.
Now, I'm looking at the, you don't have the survey of Mr. Ludzinski, do you?
The only one that we have is the one that was done by the gentleman, I believe, in Mason.
Okay, very good, very good. All right.
The only copy that I have.
Okay. Nothing further to this witness, Your
Honor. Cross-exam?
Cunningham, you've been familiar with the Drakes for, you said, 40 years, and I assume you've been familiar with this property for at least that time period, correct?
Yes, they were living there as a young couple with their 2 children. Decided they were going to move into their father's house there on Glasgow Road, and so they decided to sell the property. Put a
okay, so
on the property, and I was able to get a purchase agreement that was acceptable to both the Drakes and to the Burrowses, and then we went forward with the sale.
Okay. And what you listed for sale was a 1.0 acre parcel of property pursuant to a legal description that was provided to you by the Drakes, correct?
That was also reviewed by the title company and also the mortgage company that did the mortgage on the property wanted to make sure that all the buildings were within those boundary lines.
Okay, well, whatever mortgage survey you're referencing failed to pick up on the fact that this driveway, the southeast portion of this driveway may in fact not be on the parcel. But thus far, it is not disputed that the southeast portion of this driveway encroaches over the eastern boundary of the borough's property. So I guess I'm going to narrow my questions a little bit to you. You've indicated that at the time you sold, that the Drakes owned the property and they sold it to Mr. Burrows, that to the east of the driveway was a grassy area, correct?
That is correct. It went to the existing tillable property.
Okay. You don't know who owned that strip of grass, correct?
Well, I assumed, based on the fact that it was being mowed and maintained by the Drakes, that they were the owner of that property.
Okay. You've taken real estate classes in connection with becoming a licensed real estate salesperson, correct?
That is correct. In fact, I just
you understand how dangerous it is as a real estate agent to make assumptions about where property lines are, correct?
I'm not a surveyor, if that's what point you're trying to make.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you some specific questions. The mowed portion of the property appears to be the same as it was 35 years ago when you sold the property from the Drakes to Mr. Burrows, correct?
Would you repeat that, please?
The mowed property, specifically the area on the eastern side of the property, seems to be consistent with what you remember back when the Drakes owned the property, correct?
That is correct, yes. As I went to look at the property and an estimated value on the property and gave a recommendation of a listed price, what I saw was I regarded as the actual boundary lines and did not ask for a survey or a survey to be redone at that time.
You didn't ask for a survey, nor did Mr. Drake make any affirmative representations regarding where the property line was, correct?
To my knowledge, it was represented as being property that was to be sold to the Burrowses. Nothing was ever mentioned about something that split the driveway in half and narrowed the piece of property in any way.
Well, let's go back a little further in history to see what your memory is, and perhaps you don't know. But the fact of the matter is that when Dan Drake and his wife lived in this property, the surrounding farm property was owned by some people named Barnhart, correct?
That is correct. They owned it for many, many, many years.
Okay. And for a period of time, perhaps in the 5 years or so prior to when the Drakes sold the property to the Burrows, Mr. Drake, in fact, was leasing the property from the Barnharts for purposes of cultivating agricultural products, correct?
I'm not aware of they had any kind of a lease agreement. I know that the Drakes did farm the property, but I was unaware of anything that might have included any of the lawn or driveway or whatever.
I'm just asking you, you seem to be aware of the fact that the Drakes were farming the property when the Barnharts owned it, correct?
To my knowledge, yes. I never saw a lease agreement.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you if you were familiar with the fact that the Drakes were farming the property before they sold the house to Mr. Burrows.
I think he's affirmed that already, Counsel.
All right, I'll move on. Mr. Cunningham, do you recall a time on the subject property that the Drakes owned, a time when there was a fence row on that property?
No, I was never aware any existing fence lines of any sort during the period of time that I was aware of it.
Okay, I'm talking about back when the Drakes first moved into the property. Maybe you weren't familiar with the property at that time?
No, I'm sure after I became familiar with the Drakes and so on, and Dan being on Pulaski board, and I would attend the board meetings and so on, and he always seemed to be on top of all of the things that were going on in the township. I was never aware of any existing lines on that subject property.
Okay, so so again, I won't ask any more questions about that then. But the Drakes lived in this property for a significant period of time before they sold it to Mr. Burrows, correct?
I can't tell you the number of years, but I know that they lived there for a while. They started their family there and so on. And when they had the opportunity to move into his father's and mother's home there on Pulaski Road, they wanted to do so. And so therefore they wanted to liquidate this house.
Okay. And again, back in 1985, when it was sold to Mr. Burrows, the Barnharts still owned the surrounding farm property, correct?
I believe that is the way it was, yes.
And it was about 1990 when Dan Drake acquired the farm property from the Barnharts, if you know, is that correct?
I couldn't tell you a date. I know that they did negotiate and purchase the property. And then, of course, they started farming it, moved their irrigation in and so on. But I can't tell you a date that actually the transaction took place.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
So I want to make sure I understand. During part of the period that the Drakes resided on this parcel, they were also farming the adjacent land?
To my knowledge, yes. I don't know for how many years, but yes, in fact, I believe that they were paying a lease agreement, but I have no idea. I've never seen it. I don't know exactly how many years they were doing business together.
And to your knowledge, were the Drakes still farming the land at the time that this parcel was sold to the Burrows?
It is my estimation that that is a fact, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Truchet?
Nothing further this witness, Your Honor.
I
Okay.
No further questions.
Thank you, sir. If you wish, you are free to leave. Well, wait a minute. I do have one more question.
Okay.
You mentioned that when you were involved in the sale of this property, that a mortgage survey was done. Do you have a specific recollection of that?
Yes, that's an automatic. Banks do that to protect their interests and so on. We want to make sure that the buildings that are represented for sale are on the property address.
Do you know if the copy of that mortgage survey is still available?
Just a moment. You remember the company you dealt with? No mortgage company? You don't have any idea who you got your mortgage from? I'm trying to get that. They don't have it on record no more. Okay. Well, my file is no longer available. I believe I disposed of it. The County National Bank, I think, in Jonesville and or in Hillsdale, which one of my former students is president of County National Bank. I don't know whether they would go back that far or not to indicate whether or not they had a mortgage survey on file.
All right. Counsel, any follow-up questions based upon the one I just asked?
None from here.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. You are free to leave. Who's your next witness, Mr. Truchan?
Donald Burrows, Your Honor.
Okay, if you could hand the phone to Mr. Donald Burrows, please.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Burrows, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand, please.
I have it raised.
You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name, no need to spell it.
Donald John Burrows.
Go ahead, Mr. Trueshan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Burrows, you own the property at 12200 Wooden Road in Pulaski Township? Mr. Burrows?
Yes,
Do you own the property at 12200 Wooden Road in Pulaski Township?
that's correct.
Okay. In regard to that property, sir, when did you purchase it?
1985.
And who did you purchase it from?
Dan and Cindy Drake.
Okay. In regard to that purchase, sir, have you lived continuously in that residence and on that property since 1985?
I have.
And you've maintained that property, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, let me talk about the photograph. First of all, do you have a copy of Exhibit E number 1, the photograph, aerial photograph of the property, sir?
I do.
And as you look at that photograph, you commissioned the flight company to take a photograph and make it into a picture for you, is that correct?
Yes,
And they did so and gave you this photograph that you had mounted. Is that correct?
that's true.
In regard to this photograph, sir, is it an actual depiction of how the property viewed at that 1985 time? Is that the way the property looked, Mr. Burrows?
Yes,
Nobody's touched up anything, nobody's done anything to the property whatsoever. Is that correct?
that's correct.
In regard to this, there is one driveway and only one driveway that's ever been on that property. Is that correct?
Yes,
And the driveway that I'm looking at has a boat, some vehicles in it. Is that correct? The one we're looking at the photo?
that's correct.
All right. In regard to that driveway, you've maintained that driveway?
Yes, I have.
You haven't added to it? You haven't increased or decreased it whatsoever?
No, I have not.
Okay. And in regard to now I'm looking at the survey, sir. The certificate of survey that you had commissioned from Wolverine Engineers and Surveyors?
Yes,
All right. As I look at, if you can have the photo and the survey next to each other, sir. As I look at the survey, you had indicated to the actual surveyors that came out to the property that you occupied and maintained the property that's listed as occupied to the east, the north, and the west of your deeded property. Is that correct?
yes,
That occupied area was property that, not the description, but the location and the feet of that, you indicated with the actual survey crew. Is that correct?
yes,
So the survey crew came out there and you walked with them. They surveyed the whole property, including the property, 40 feet, 4 inches, 38 feet, 0.4 inches on the southeast corner, the northeast corner, 40.4 inches. That was what you've indicated, that in fact you have completely occupied and to the detriment of the breaks. Is that correct?
That's a leading question, Your Honor.
Hold on. It is a leading question.
It is, Judge. I'll rephrase it.
Okay.
As you look at the survey, sir,
yes, I'm looking at it.
the occupied area, where did that come from?
From the survey and where I walked it off.
Okay? The surveyors were with you?
Yes, they were. It was all of the grass that I maintained.
Okay? And by maintaining, sir, this property, are you saying, as I look at the photo now, from where your vehicles are in the driveway, 40 feet, that grassy area, is that the same one that we're talking about on the survey?
Yes, it is.
Now, you indicated there was also to the surveyors on the north that there was footage also that you are claiming by adverse possession. You tell me what feet that is, sir, you're claiming.
Yes.
What feet are you claiming there, sir, as you look at the survey?
What's the question again?
Okay. As you look at the survey, sir, you claim that in fact there is property that you are claiming by adverse possession against the Drakes. That property to the north of your deeded property is how much, and why are you claiming that in fact that should be yours?
Because I maintained it, I planted gardens onto it, I've cut the grass onto it, and kept people off of it too, where they never came on until
all right.
a few years ago. Of Drake.
19
ground up.
Okay. In 1985, when you purchased the property, did you put any stakes in whatsoever?
Yes, I ended up putting one stake down on the southwest side with a orange flag, and I put another one on the northwest, and another one on the northeast, and another one on the southeast.
Okay, and where were those, as I'm looking, sir, at the either the photograph or the survey? Where did you place those specifically?
Right there where the grass and up, right there on the line where I was mowing and maintaining the grass.
All right, so what I heard from you was that you put the stakes on the corners of the occupied parcel also. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so it wasn't just the deeded property, it was what you had maintained or what you're representing to the court today that you maintained.
That's correct. No more, no less, where I put them down when I first moved in there.
All right. And were those stakes ever removed to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, they were torn out of there when he chisel plowed it.
To what side, sir? Or was it to all sides?
I'm sorry?
What you're talking about chisel plowing, they were plowed over by the Drakes?
When he went into my land onto it, yes, where I was maintaining it.
Okay. And did you talk to Mr. Drake about that?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to Mr. Drake?
I told Dan that he was coming on my grass, and he was horseshoeing in, and he said that was his ground. I said, well, I've been maintaining it for all these years. We've never had no problem until just a couple years ago.
Okay, so there's been words over the last couple of years about the property?
That's correct.
But he stayed off the property, is that correct, after you confronted him?
Yeah, never had no problem with him for all those years and everything, a couple of years ago.
Okay. Did Mr. Drake ever put, after you confronted him, did he ever put up anything, any markers, a fence, a letter from him, any type of correspondence, any type of any monument on the property to say, this is mine, it's not yours?
No, not at all. He just ran into it and chiseled it up.
And these stakes and orange markers or orange flags on them were visible?
Now, the stakes that I put in where he was tearing them up, I ended up putting stakes into them and put no trespassing and flags. The stakes were probably about 4 feet high. And that's where
that Jennifer Drake came in and pulled all those stakes up and just threw them in the yard.
Okay.
And then she commenced chisel plowing all the area where they thought was their property.
Okay. Now, as I look at the certificate of survey, again, you were out there with the surveyors, correct? Is that correct?
I can't. What's that again?
I said, as I look at the survey that was done by Wolverine, you were out there with those folks when they committed that survey.
Yeah.
Okay. And did they talk to you about the driveway being X amount of feet over from the deeded property line?
Yes, they did. Wolverine, you say?
Yes, correct. They talked to you about that?
Right. Are you still there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's better reception, so stay wherever you're at there. All right, and in regard to the sheds on the northern portion, did they talk to you about the sheds being over the property line? Okay.
Property line.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear much of that. Mr.
He said it was over the property line.
Okay.
Read the question again. I couldn't hear. It got cut out one way or the other.
Okay.
My question was, the sheds, when you had the survey done, the folks who committed the survey indicated you to the sheds were over the line?
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, I asked you this, but the portion on the east, the north, and the west that you've indicated is occupied, that is all the property, at least that was represented to you by the sellers as being all your property. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Hold on.
I'll rephrase the question.
It's a leading question.
The property, Mr. Burrows, in the photograph.
Right.
You indicated that was a true and accurate depiction of when it was taken in 1989?
That's true.
Okay. And I'm looking now to the east again. Did the Drakes over all this time period until just recently?
Can't hear him.
George, you faded right out. You're going to have to start your question over again.
Okay. Mr. Burrows, through the years, I'm looking at the photo now. Have the Drakes done anything to that property from your edge of your driveway east?
We faded out again.
Yeah, the very end, you faded out, George. Try again.
Mr. Burrows, have the Drakes done anything on that property from the edge of your driveway to the corn?
Did the Drakes do anything on my property?
Yeah. Did they park on it? Did they walk on it? Did they anything whatsoever? Ever tell you to get off the property? Anything like that at all?
No, never.
Okay. And yet, they were farming those fields right next to the property you claim that's yours. Is that correct?
Yes, they did.
So they would drive by on tractors?
Yep. Yes.
And never said anything to you or never put up any markers that you were a trespasser and shouldn't be on that property of anything whatsoever?
No, they never did.
Okay. I'm looking at a set of photos that council has and the judge has The first photo I have is under Exhibit E. And that is of someone driving a tractor and you're in front of them taking the photo. Is that correct? You have that one, Mr. Burrows?
What's that again?
Do you have that picture in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Person driving that tractor is
Who is the person driving the tractor?
Jennifer Gray.
okay. There is a burn barrel. What side of the property is this photo taken, sir?
What side is the photo taken?
Yeah, what side of the property is she on? And you're on.
That was on the west side.
Okay, on the west side of the property, is that your burn
Correct.
barrel out
Yeah, you faded out, George. Start
there?
over.
Is that your burn barrel, Mr. Burrows, out there?
Burn barrel is on the east side, northeast side.
Northeast side, okay.
And the tractor that you said is?
Yes, where the tractor is a burn barrel, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that burn barrel is on what you claim is your property, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, let me hold on. Let me stop you because I'm confused now. I'm looking at a photograph of a barrel sitting in the corner of a mowed area. It certainly doesn't look like the east side. It looks like the northwest corner.
Oh, that burn barrel over there is a burn barrel where they moved that in, and then I moved it over on the east side.
All right, but the photograph that says May 5, 2020, west to east, north side, shows a barrel in the northwest corner of the mowed property. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I did that one over there.
All right, so did you say that they physically moved that barrel at the time they did the plowing?
When they tore the markers up onto it, I moved that barrel over. And then when they ended up chisel plowing, they pushed it in probably, I'm saying close to 50 feet.
They moved the barrel 50 feet?
Yeah, it's just a burn barrel.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Trushan, I was confused when he said it was on the east side. So go ahead with your questions.
All right. Let me, that grass that's been cut there, where the tractor is, you see?
George, you're fading out.
Okay. Mr. Burrows, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the tractor, and the tractor is partially on cornfields and partially on just mowed grass. Is that correct?
That's correct.
As you look at that mowed grass and area there, is that part of the area that you also maintain?
Every bit of it, yes.
Did you tell Mrs. Drake or Miss Drake, who's driving that tractor, to get off your property?
You faded out again, George.
Okay. Did you ever tell Miss Drake to get off the property?
I did. And she said that she was going to go ahead and call the cops. I stopped her there. And
I'm looking at the next.
He's still talking, answering your question.
Okay. I can't hear him. She said she was going to call the police or something in regard to that. Let me move to the next photo. The next photo that I'm looking at is some property that has been plowed on the left, and on the right side of the photo are a couple of trailers and vehicles. Where's that location?
Okay, I'm into my photos. Which ones are you talking about now?
The ones that in fact show the trailers and a vehicle in front of it, I believe Wooden Road is right there. Is that next to where your driveway is, or part of the east of the driveway?
It is.
So that would be the southeast corner. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All that grass is there, and I'm looking at the photo. It shows the grass. It shows grass that's also been plowed. Is that the same photo?
We lost you, George. Try again.
Jeez. Okay.
George, it might be helpful when identifying these photographs. I will not object if you want to make reference to the handwritten dates and times and what's depicted. I think it'll make it easier for you to identify these photos.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can find it.
Say, George, can we go ahead and go by the numbers on the back? We've numbered them.
Well,
the problem is I don't have those numbers, sir.
He doesn't have, correct. All right, let me do what Mr. Lovinger indicated. See if I can get to that handwritten one. All right, I'm looking at Judge and John, I'm looking at May 5th, 2020, north to south. That's what I was talking about. He's in the northeast corner. If you see that one, there's trailers and chisel plowed property and grass.
It says north to south, east side at the bottom.
Yep. That's correct, Judge. All right. That property there, sir, is part of the property you claim that you should have by adverse possession. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And that cutting of the grass and everything else and parking those vehicles are your trailers. Are those your trailers?
Yes, they are.
Are those your vehicle in front of the trailer?
Yes.
And maintenance of that property, cutting it, and planting and everything else was by you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Let's move to the next photo. The next photo I have says May 5th, 2020, west to east.
George.
Yes, sir.
Before you move, I have a question for your client.
Absolutely.
So looking at the photograph, it says north to south, east side. To the east of the trailers, there appears to be some freshly plowed ground that's got some green mixed in with it. Is that the portion that you're testifying was being chisel plowed by the Drakes?
That's correct.
All right, thank
I
you.
hear you loud and clear, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, George.
Thank you.
Mr. Burrows, I'm looking at the next photo, May 5th, 2020, west to east. You see that?
Yeah. May 5, 2020, west to east, north side.
Okay.
Let me just kind of cut to the chase. Is that your vehicle that's parked back there?
Yes, it is.
And those trees, that's the trees that Mr. Cunningham and Mr. Benzinski spoke of. Is that correct? On the northeast corner.
Right.
Those sheds that I see in the photo, those are the two sheds they were talking about being over the line. Is that correct?
That's definitely correct.
So if I were to look at this photo, sir, where they have now recently chisel plowed and cut around your vehicle in that, that's the property you're talking about being on the north corner that you indicate you should have by adverse possession. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's move to the next one.
Hold on.
Okay.
So this area on this photograph that shows being freshly plowed, did that happen shortly before you took this photograph?
I met Jennifer Drake tearing this yard up.
Okay, so it was the same day you saw her on the tractor in that earlier photograph?
Yes, and she's on the tractor tearing it up.
All right, so she had just plowed it on that day.
That's correct.
At any time prior to that date, had she or anyone else on behalf of the Drakes plowed into the mowed area anywhere around the property?
Horseshoed before she got it, it was the last year, 2 years ago, where he chisel plowed into it. And then she came the next year and did it worse than what her father did.
Oh, I see. So 2 years before this picture, there was some plowing into the mowed area, but in May of 2020, there was a much greater plowing into the mowed area.
You bet.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Truchan, go ahead.
I'm looking now at the photograph, May 5th, 2020, south to north, and I can't read that. I think it's the eastern corner. You see that photograph, sir?
From the south to the north.
Yeah, you're looking around you're on the east side of the property where your driveway is,
Okay,
looking south to, you're in the southeastern corner looking to the north.
Okay, I'm looking at that one.
Okay.
Having a hard time listening to you.
All right. I see there are vehicles and a trailer or so in the driveway. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. And
That's the same eastern side of the property that you are claiming.
You were both talking at the same time, Mr. Truchan. Ask your question again.
Mr. Burrows, that's the same property that you are claiming is yours. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm looking now at a photograph of a couple of stakes and a few stakes laying down. It's one or two more further on in my listing. May 15th, 2020, west side. You see that?
Southwest side, there's four stakes with a no trespassing sign. Is that the right picture we are looking at?
No. These signs are laying down and there's one post there.
Yep, that's the one I'm looking at too. The post.
Sorry.
No.
That's Wooden Road there. Is that correct in front?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So this is on the west side, looking from the north to the south. And why are those signs or markers laying down, if you know?
Because Jennifer Drake ended up pulling all the stakes up out of the ground right there, so she could go ahead and come down there and chisel plow that grass area that I was mowing and maintained.
Okay. You had put up those stakes and markers?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I'm looking at now May 5th, 2020 of the photo. On the right part of the photo shows part of your house. It then shows the driveway with your vehicles in it. And on the left side is a tractor. You see that? May 5th, 2020.
With the tractor?
Your tractor on the left side of the photo. Portion of the house on the right side with the trailers in your driveway in the middle. May 5th, 2020. Okay, yeah. See that?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
In regard to that photo, it looks like there is a large amount of area in between your trailers and the tractor. Do you see that?
Right.
That portion in between where she is with that tractor, which they normally plowed, and your trailers is the 40 feet you're talking about. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just to make sure I understand what portion we're talking about.
So let me interrupt again. Sir, if you could go back to the previous photograph, the one with the stakes on the ground.
Yes.
There's a metal stake in the ground. Do you know who put that there and when?
Yep, that is the stake from their surveyor.
Okay. And in the foreground of the picture, there's a black object. Can you tell me what that is?
A black object in the same picture?
Yeah, at the bottom of the picture.
I have no idea what that thing is.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Trushan.
Thank you. I'm now looking, sir, at photograph that says May 28th, 2020, north to south, east side.
Northeast side. Okay, go ahead.
There's a picture of a burn barrel and a no trespassing sign up against it. What is that?
That's another stake that it was up against the burn barrel.
Yes.
Yes.
Right behind that burn barrel is where she chisel plowed it up and they planted corn and they didn't get to go ahead and kill all that grass. That was a part of the grass that I maintained. Now they got corn into it.
Okay. Again, that's just recently.
Yes, that was 2020, this year, where it grew up.
Okay.
And it's 33 feet, 3 inches from my well where they sprayed chemicals close to that well. Or could be polluted now, where I'm getting my water tested with that Roundup and the other chemicals that was sprayed. They're supposed to be 100 feet away from water wells.
Yeah, you need to stop. There's no question. You can't just volunteer information.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so before we move on from this photograph, sir, the one with the barrel and the no trespassing sign leaning against it, to the right of that, there's another stake in the ground. Do you know who placed that stake?
Yeah, that's from their surveyors.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Mr. Burrows, I'm just going to use one more photo. I'm looking at April the 23rd, 2020. And do you see that photo, sir?
No, which one is it?
April 23rd, 2020.
I don't have dates on mine here.
Okay. They were on the package. The judge has the package that in fact, and that's fine. We don't have dates on it.
Do you have a number on the back of George? Why don't you tell him that number?
Yeah, maybe that'll help. Don?
Numbers?
I think he's trying to get it for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking at number 13, Don, on your stack.
Number 13?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. Number 13 in your stack, but it's the under E for the package that they have. I see a shed. I see property that looks like it's been mowed, and from the driveway way over, there's no plowing, no nothing whatsoever in regard to it. It's just property or grass that's been maintained. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the vehicles that are there being parked on that property are your vehicles?
Yes, every one of them.
Okay. All right. Let me move forward.
Hold on. So, sir, the grassy area in this photograph is consistent with the area that you've been mowing up until the plowing that occurred this past spring?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Now, the property that you allege is the occupied area in regard to that. Again, let me return to that to make sure I'm clear. That property, you're stating you maintained, is that correct?
Yes.
That this was the same property, in your view, that was the photograph taken from the aerial photograph, is that correct?
That's true.
That there is no other driveway there. You only have the one driveway, correct?
That's correct.
That at no time until this recent situation with starting to plow for 34 years, nobody ever told you to get off that property. Is that correct?
Correct.
Nobody ever sent you any correspondence?
No.
Mr. Drake and his daughter at minimum, not other relatives, drove by that property and could view your property daily? Is that correct?
Daily, but they were out there farming it and never had no problem with either one of them.
They never said a word to you about the property and thanks for mowing it, or get your vehicles off the property, don't plant a garden there, anything like that whatsoever. Any words to tell you to get off?
Not at all.
Your actions on that property, how would you describe them? In defiance of the Drakes about the property that was yours? I'll rephrase. The plowing and planting of corn, the planting of corn for all these years has always been as depicted in the photographs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you do anything else on this property, sir?
Did I do anything else on the property?
Yeah. I mean, your testimony has been you maintained it, you cut the grass, you parked vehicles on it, you took care of it and everything else. Did you do anything else on the property?
I did everything that was possible, cut it, got people off of it, ran over it, planted a garden onto it. Never had no problem with it.
Okay.
Nobody said anything to me.
Was never ever anything sent to you, never anything said to you in regard to it whatsoever, other than when Mr. Drake at one time confronted you, you indicated to him, "This is my property, get off."
You faded out again.
I just said the only time, it's been one time with Mr. Drake, one time with his daughter recently, that there's been any discussion about this property whatsoever.
No.
Is that correct?
Well, we went over to his house and he told me that I needed to go ahead and I told him I was going to go ahead and put rocks down, but he didn't want me to go ahead and put rocks down because he wanted to take his corn planter and his tractor and turn it around in my backyard. I said, that ain't going to happen. And that was 2 years ago.
Okay. Other than that, any other real correspondence or any other discussion about the property at all?
No.
Okay. I can have just a second, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I'd ask those, let me say this, Mr. Burrows, those
Yes.
photographs were all taken by you?
On my telephone, yes,
And then you had them printed, is that correct?
I did.
And you kept them in your possession other than giving me a copy of that to give to the court and Mr. Lovinger, is that correct?
Correct.
Nothing's been done to those photographs whatsoever other than taking them from your camera and having them printed off, correct?
Correct.
And they were true and accurate at the time you took them?
Ever been on? Yes.
Okay. I'd ask that those photographs be admitted as Exhibit E.
No objection.
Any objection?
No.
The photographs are admitted.
Nothing further this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, let me see what time it is here, folks. I'm gonna need to take a little short break again. Before I do that, Mr. Burrows, I want to ask you a question about one of the photographs. It's labeled May 3, 2020, and it says 11 p.m. on it. It shows a stake with an orange flag on it in a cornfield. Looking south on the east side of your property would be my guess.
Okay.
Do you see that photograph?
Is that the one, that's the one on looking into that barn that I have on the northeast?
No. It looks like it's up. Well, I can't really tell exactly. It looks like it must be from the north side of your property looking south along the east side.
Okay.
There's a cornfield. It looks like it's got two stakes in it, one right at the very front of the photograph and one way at the very back. And it looks like a rock pile across the road and three silos way down across the road in another field.
Okay, I got you, sir.
So it would appear to me that this was a cornfield that had been planted in the prior year.
Just that, right, what you see right there, that's the cornfield, yes.
Right. It shows just corn stalks, so. Right. Corn stalks been harvested in the fall of 2019.
This year.
Well,
They were harvested twice. First, it
no.
was.
I'm talking as of the time. The corn stalks I see are left over from corn that was harvested in the fall of 2019.
That's correct.
Okay. These stakes with the orange flags, are those stakes that you placed?
No, those stakes are from Drake's survey on the right side of the no trespassing of that burn barrel, looking at that trailer that half the paint is taken off.
No, there's no trailer in this photograph. The photograph I'm looking at has no structures in it other than the silos way down across the road.
Don, he's looking at May 3rd, 2020.
11 p.m.
Is there a number on the back of it?
There is, I don't think so, Judge.
We don't have a number on this one. I want to make sure you're looking at the same photograph, sir, and I don't think you are.
Let me get into some other photographs and I'll look at that. Hold on. You there?
I am.
Okay. All right.
Hey, same one, John, I agree. May 3rd, 2020, Don.
And you're looking at the, okay, I see the barn back there.
I don't really see a barn. They might be one, but
Is there a tractor across the street?
no. There's an empty field across the street with some silos way back in the far right-hand top of the photograph. Looks like wooden road across the top of the photograph. Rock pile on the other side of Wooden Road and the east side of your property. There's nothing else shown in the picture other than two wooden stakes that have orange flags on them.
Okay. And what's your question?
Well, my first question is, are we looking at the same photograph? Sounds like you're having trouble finding it.
Yes, I am.
Don, are you able to see the TV screen?
I see the one on the west side. He wants the one on the east.
Don,
Yes.
are you able to see the TV screen?
The computer screen.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Lovinger is going to hold up a picture of the, you see that?
I do.
All right, that's what the judge is talking about.
Okay, hold the picture up.
I am.
Is there any way we can take that thing off right there? Oh.
Auto.
You see it?
No, they're there now. Okay, now go ahead and put the picture up if you would, please.
It's up.
He's holding it up.
Is it black and white?
Yes.
That's the date.
Okay, I can see the, can you leave your picture up and I'll go by that one? Because
Sure. It may move, but yeah, I got it.
I see it now.
All right, the problem is I don't think that's the same picture I'm looking at.
Oh, okay. The one I have is May 3rd, 2020, 11 p.m.
This one says that, but yours appears to have a barn across the road.
It has I see what you're calling a rock pile.
What is the,
That's the horizon. And then up here is those silos way up here. That's the horizon there. There's no barn.
all right, that's the right picture then. It just says across the screen.
Okay, I'm with you.
Can you see, it's black and white, so you can't tell, a wooden stake with a flag on it at the bottom of the picture.
Can you hold it up again?
Can you point your finger to it, Mr. Lovinger?
Yeah, right there. See?
You see it?
Yeah. Well, let me represent to you, sir, this photograph shows a wooden stake with a orange flag on it. You testified earlier that you placed 4 wooden stakes with orange flags on them at the corners of your occupied property, correct?
Yes, correct.
So if I'm seeing a wooden stake with an orange flag on it in the northeast corner of your property, that's a flag that you placed there.
No, that's if it's between the grass that's mowed and the grass that is up.
No, it's in the cornfield.
Cornfield, okay. That's the orange flag of the surveyor.
All right, well, I don't think so, but I think I've wasted enough time on the picture. All right, I'm gonna have to take a break here, gentlemen. Just a few minutes and I'll be right back.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, about 6 or 8 pictures. You had a bunch of that. Yeah, this was, yeah, that was right. Yeah, like 6 or 8 pictures with this thing on it. Yeah, I got out here. Yeah, out there. Out there. Right outside on that. Tools.
Okay, I'm back. I just realized there's probably a better way for me to get this picture up on the screen. I'm going to try to share my screen.
Okay.
And
Going to the farm and back.
all right, that's, oh, okay. Maybe that is it. Hold on. All right, no, that's not it. Let me get to that.
You might have to click the attachment.
Okay, do I have this picture on my screen? Everybody see that?
There it is.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Good picture.
all right, that's the one I've been asking you about.
Okay.
You see this stake with the orange flag on it?
Yes, I do.
And do you see another one way up near the road?
Okay, those are where I maintain the grass.
Okay, who placed those stakes?
I did.
And when did you place them?
2019.
And at the time that you, well, clearly there was a cornfield.
That was horseshoed in by Dan Drake, and then.
That's what I'm getting at, sir.
You're welcome. Sorry.
So after Mr. Dan Drake encroached on your mowed area, you placed these stakes showing where the mowed area used to be?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
No, that's, I should have realized that I could share this picture with you much earlier. Let me stop the share. Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Levenger, I encroached on your questions. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just get started. Just about that last picture the judge showed you while it's fresh in our minds, since I don't have the ability to share the screen. You say this picture was taken May 3rd, 2020. It says at 11 p.m. Perhaps that's a typographical, but maybe not. But you took that picture May 3rd, 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your survey by your surveyor, Wolverine, was undertaken on April 2nd of 2020, correct?
Right. But that's all I know. It's 2019 crops in there.
Okay, it's the 2019 crop that had been harvested, but this picture was taken in the spring of 2020, correct?
That's right.
Okay, and you didn't place this stake in where it's located in the picture until after Mr. Drake had gotten his survey done, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that was, and his survey was done on, looks like it was September 24th of 19.
Hold on, Mr. Burrows. Let him finish his question first.
Mr. Drake's survey was done in September of 2019, correct?
Is that what it says on his paperwork of the survey?
Yes. Okay. And I'll move on then. The main point is you're the one who put that stake in there.
No, those stakes were put up there by me because there's no stakes from the surveyor on the right side that I can see.
Okay, those are your stakes, correct? In the picture.
Yes, those are my stakes.
Okay, so you purchased this property from the Drakes in 1985. Were you familiar with the property in any detail prior to when you bought it?
Right? What you see in the picture, that is what I maintained through the years.
Okay, that wasn't really the question. So you purchased this property in, okay, there's a bit of a delay. You purchased the property in 1985 from the Drakes, correct?
Yes.
Prior to buying the property and looking at it for the several weeks before you actually bought it, were you very familiar with the property? Had you driven by it much? Things like that?
You're fading out.
Mr. Levenger, let me stop you before you re-ask your question. I better plug this phone in because the battery's about to go dead. Hold on a second.
Sure.
And I'm going to check my iPad because that's how my internet connects out here in the wilderness.
Okay.
Take off. Okay, good luck to you. Are you going home now? Yeah. You want to go ahead and ride with him? Where you go? Where you live?
I can drop you off. Are you done with him?
Yeah, he's all done. He already gave this testimony.
Okay, anything we can do to
Thank you you very much, guys. Yeah.
Okay, I got here just in time. I had about 6% left. All right, go ahead, Mr. Levenger.
Okay, Mr. Burrows, you purchased the property in 1985 from the Drakes. Prior to the time that you bought the property in 1985, were you very familiar with the property, or did you become familiar only after you started to look at it to buy it?
I was very familiar with Denny Cunningham's, where he told me about the property I was buying. There was Dennis Cunningham and Dan Drake, where Dan Drake said, with all this property, all this grass, that's what goes the house and the building.
I heard about 50% of what you said, so I'm going to ask you the question again, and I want you to focus on the question. And the question is, prior to buying the property in 1985, for a year or two before that, were you familiar with this property, or did you only become familiar with it when you started to look at it through the realtor?
Yes.
You were familiar with it?
I was.
For how long?
Until up to this day.
No. For how long before you bought the property were you familiar with it?
I was familiar with Dennis ended up showing me the property.
Right. Okay. So let's go back 3-4 years before then. Were you aware of the property 3 or 4 years before?
Yes, I was aware of it.
Okay. Do you recall a time when there was actually a fence row on that property?
There was no fence row on it.
When you looked at it, there was no fence row, correct?
There was no fence row.
Okay. Several years before you bought the property and before you looked at it with the realtor, were you ever familiar with the fact that a fence row existed?
Looking at this picture, there is no.
Looking at pictures, I am talking about your memory of this property before you bought it.
My memory is very, very good onto it. There was no fence row.
Okay. So you wouldn't know of the fact that when the Drakes lived there, with the permission of the Barnharts, who lived there and who owned the farm fields and who owned up to the fence row, the Drakes got permission to remove the fence row, which is in the disputed area.
I never seen no fence row there.
Okay, you're not aware of one existing.
No, I know there wasn't one existed. It was all cornfield, all the way around the whole property.
Okay. Now let me ask you, you've lived in the area where this house is for how long?
35 years.
Okay. Where'd you live before you bought the house?
Litchfield, Michigan.
Okay, which is, close, but, probably 8 to 10 miles away, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you have reason to drive down Wooden Road very frequently before you bought this house?
No, never drove down it. Just with it.
So your familiarity with it is understandably vague because you hadn't paid much attention to it till you started to think about buying it, right? Right.
Just when Dennis Cunningham ended up told me that the property was for sale.
Okay.
And I went over and talked about that with my wife.
When you moved in there was this existing driveway that's depicted on the various surveys as encroaching a bit on its east side over the southeast corner of the property, correct?
That driveway driveway was the same when I bought it, with all the grass, all the way up to the driveway, clear to the cornfield of the picture that I have.
Okay, all right. And there was a time you were, I don't know if you were involved in car hauling or something, but there was a time when you expanded this driveway to the east somewhat, which made it easier for you to park and turn your trailers around, correct?
Yes, I can go ahead and park my car hauler in there.
Yeah, and you expanded the driveway somewhat because it made it easier to maneuver these car haulers, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you did that, and Mr. Drake was aware that you did that, correct?
I don't know if he was aware. I paid for the culvert $250, and it was on my property in the ditch.
But you were aware, he was aware that you had done that, correct?
I have I don't know if he did or not.
Okay, let me ask you this. The strip of grass between the driveway and where the farm field was being cultivated, the width of that has changed over time, correct?
In the last couple of years, it's changed.
Okay, let me direct your attention to 2012, about 8 years ago. Did you notice at that time that the Drakes were cultivating somewhat less property than they had previously?
No, it was just about right in the same.
Okay, so if there was
lines right on his side, had no problem.
Okay, if there was testimony that in 2012 they changed the size of their planter and therefore didn't plant quite as far over, you don't recollect that?
I do. They didn't come on the property. They kept on their side, I kept on my side where I mowed the grass.
Okay, and the truth of the matter is that until the Drakes got their survey done, you had never done anything affirmatively to keep them off your property, correct?
You paid it out on me.
Okay, until September of 2019, when Mr. Drake got the survey done, you had never previously done anything to keep him off the disputed property, correct?
Nope, they stayed on their side, I stayed on my side. There's no problem.
And what's key to this whole discussion is that you're making an assumption about what was your property and what was their property, correct?
There is no assumption all the years that I've been on that property at all.
But you never had a survey performed until April of 2020, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, in your previous testimony, you had indicated that you had placed wooden stakes out at the four corners of what you believe to be your property. Are those the stakes that you placed out there after your survey was done?
I placed those stakes when I ended up moving in, and metal stakes, and put orange flags onto it.
You said you did
ripping it up. And I did go ahead and place stakes onto it.
Oh, let's back up a little bit. Are you saying that you placed wooden or metal stakes at what you believe to be the four corners of your property in 1985?
Correct.
What happened to those stakes and when?
They ended up tearing them up when they did their plowing onto it.
When?
When? Well, tried to go ahead and get in there at 2019 when they did tear it up, couldn't find it. Never had no problem with those stakes being down on the ground.
Well, let's back up because these details matter. These stakes you claim you put up in 1985, how long were they up before they got taken down?
Well, the orange flags, they didn't last very long, but we never had no problem because they stayed on their side right there.
The stakes that you put up in 1985, if I'm hearing you correctly, you are saying that they were removed fairly soon after you put them out there, correct?
Never had no problem. I don't know when they got removed, but he stayed on his side. I stayed on my side.
And you put some new wooden stakes out after his survey and your survey was performed, correct?
Yeah.
And those are the ones you testified in the picture, 15 minutes or so ago when the judge put the picture up on the computer screen, correct?
Correct.
And those were removed, I believe you said it was done by Ms. Drake while she was plowing the property, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You never constructed a fence or any other kind of a monument of any type that set forth what you believe to be the boundaries of your property during the last 35 years, correct?
Just the monuments of the stakes.
Well, the stakes that got ripped out pretty soon after you put them in there, the ones 35 years ago, but other than that, nothing, correct?
Yes, I told you at 1985, I put steel stakes on the southeast, northeast, northwest, and southwest.
And the Drakes removed those because that's where they were farming, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you never built any other type of fence or anything along where you believed your boundary lines were, correct?
No, sir, there was no fence.
Okay. And so all along, you've been assuming that you owned the area that you mowed, correct?
I mowed it.
You mowed it.
Maintained.
You assumed that you believed that you owned it, correct?
Yes, I owned it. That's what I assumed.
You assumed that you owned it. Okay. You never had there weren't any direct discussions until the fall of 2019, spring of 2020 about where the actual boundary was. You and Mr. Drake didn't have any specific discussions about that, correct?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to show you, and hopefully you can see it on the computer screen because I don't know that it's been admitted as an exhibit, but it is something that your attorney provided to me, and I'll hold it up to the screen. This looks like an area, and it looks like it's something. Can you hear it? Can you see it?
He's having.
Second. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to try to pull that up on my screen share because I've got the color version of it, Mr.
Right.
Lovinger.
Yeah, I believe it looks like something from the county GIS, probably.
Yeah, I believe it's near the end. Give me just a moment and I'll get it up.
I appreciate that.
I gotta get my screen out of the way here. All right.
Give us a few seconds. We're trying to pull it up. Our computers are ready to die. We got to get plugged in.
Okay. I think it's at the beginning now that.
It's the first one after letter E exhibit. That's it, guys.
That's it. That's it.
All right. Let me.
Either one of those, Your Honor, will suffice.
All right. I don't know how much of it.
I can see enough of it. Actually, I can, if you, that's good. For the purpose of my question, that'll suffice.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Burrows, can you see what the judge has put up on the screen?
I do.
Is that a yes or a no?
He said yes.
Okay. And on the screen, this is a document that was probably produced by the Jackson County could be mapping or equalization, but what it does is it depicts, this is not considered a survey, but it depicts what they believe this tax parcel to be. And you can see on this map, there's a depiction of, to the top of the picture, you can't quite see it, would be Wooden Road. There's the driveway we've spoken of. And you can see that blue boundary indicates that a portion of the driveway is in fact located east of the boundary line. And then as we go down to the bottom of the picture, we see your house and we see what looks like an above ground swimming pool. And then down in the lower left corner appear to be a couple of structures, probably the barns we've spoken of. And there's some encroachment on those. Do you see that, Mr. Burrows?
I do.
Okay. And then further, which would be to the north geographically, but on the bottom of the picture, we then see what looks like a pretty good sized tree. And all of that is outside of that blue boundary marker, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree? And again, these GIS pictures are there's a disclaimer that they're not survey lines, but would you agree that the blue boundary in that picture is consistent with what the survey of your 1 acre parcel is, minus the parts that you claim you've been occupying?
Say say that again. That's what I ended up maintaining.
Right. What you're claiming you've maintained is outside on the east side and the north side is outside of where that blue boundary is, correct?
Because I maintained all on the other side, clear up to where he got chisel plowed. Is that your
right
now?
Yeah, that's the area in the picture that's as we look at the picture to the left of the blue line is where you've been mowing, correct?
All the way from the east to the north, to the west. I was maintaining over the blue lines because those lines go inside the shed right there. If I knew I was going to buy that, I would have never bought that of getting somebody taking over 2 feet of that shed, and then they got the driveway. They own the driveway too?
Well,
no, I would have never bought it.
Okay, and that probably means you weren't aware of any type of a survey or aerial depiction like this when you bought the property, right?
That's correct. I wasn't aware of it until I popped up.
Okay, got it. I understand. And you know, your realtor may have made some representations to you about where he thought the boundary lines were, but that was about the extent of it, correct?
Here's what he ended up telling you when he sold me this price, this property, that everything that was the grassed area would go to the house and to the pole barns too.
Okay, and he when he testified, he admitted that was an assumption on his part, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Can I say one thing? If I knew they owned I would have never got my car home and never bought this house at all.
I understand.
And then they own inside those pole barns.
I understand what you're saying. Now, you testified during your direct examination from Mr. Trushan that at times you've kept people off your mowed area of the property. Specifically, who have you kept off of that property?
Listen again, you faded.
Okay. You testified earlier that at times you have kept people off of your mowed property. Who have you kept off and when?
never had no problems with the Drakes. They stayed on the other side and I stayed on my side until 2 years ago.
Okay, so there was never a time when you walked out prior to 2 years ago and said to Mr. Drake or his son or his daughter, you never walked out and said, I proclaim all of this mowed area to be mine, you better stay off it, correct?
Correct.
The Drakes farm all around you, and you understand that they are not obligated to farm every inch of ground that they own?
Yeah, 2 feet from the boundary lines.
Right, and you understand that it's their decision. If they want to fully cultivate their property, they can do that, or they cannot do that, correct?
Well, I don't know how to answer that question because they encroached on the grass that I ended up mowing.
I understand that. Is it? Yeah, I'll strike that. I have no further questions at this time.
John, if you could leave that photo up that you have up, I have a few redirect Mr. Lovinger's questions.
Sure, just a second, Bill. Let me, so Mr. Burrow, before you bought this property, did you have any conversation with the Drakes about where the boundaries were?
We were just out in the backyard with Chris Cunningham, the realtor. And, he ended up saying that what you see is all the grass all the way around the whole house on the north, east, and west. That's what belongs to this house. That's how I understood of what I own.
Right. I don't want you to tell me what you understood, but I want you to tell me is what did Mr. or Mrs. Drake, well, let me ask you, who was present when you inspected the property prior to making an offer?
Mr. Drake and Dennis Cunningham.
Did Mr. Drake say anything to you about where he believed the boundaries were?
No.
Go ahead, Mr. Trushan.
Well, I want to follow up with that question because I thought I heard you say earlier that Mr. Drake said to you and Mr. Cunningham, specifically Mr. Drake, represented that everything that's all the grass around this property on the east, the north, and the west is also part of what you were purchasing and or there was a dispute about.
Your Honor, I'm just going to object. I believe what the witness said was that Mr. Cunningham said that.
Okay, well, it was Mr. Okay, well, that was my question. Mr. Drake say to you, this is all the property that goes that I'm selling you. All the property that's the mowed grass and everything else in regard to that.
That's correct.
Okay. And obviously, Mr. Drake and Mrs. Drake lived in the house prior to you. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I heard.
And when I'm looking at the driveway, and Judge, if you can move the photo down just a little so I can see wooden road to the driveway. Very good, thank you. So what I'm seeing here is just by the GIS drawings, like Mr. Lovinger said, are not, true to order in regard to this. But even as you look at this, those vehicles, which are your vehicles in the driveway, is that correct?
Yes, they are.
2/3 of those vehicles in the driveway, and at least half the driveway or more at the southern boundary is now, as we see it, disputed property. You're saying it's yours by adverse possession. They're saying it's theirs by deed in regard to it. But as you look at this, your motto was, when you bought it, please tell me what it was, that the whole driveway and the property that we're saying in dispute was your property.
Yes. Absolutely.
You maintain the whole driveway?
35 years I have, just about, until they tore it up.
So again, Mr. Drake made representations in regard to the whole parcel, the driveway and the grassy around all all three corners that we dispute.
Objection, Your Honor. That's inconsistent with what he's testified to under direct examination from the bench.
Okay, well, ask a different question, Mr. Burrows. Tell me what Mr. Drake said to you when you were purchasing the property.
I own all the grass that you see on the northeast and south of this house. I own everything of the grass that he mowed too when he was in the house. The whole shebang.
Did he ever say to you, oh, by the way, Mr. Burrows, I'm going to sell you a piece of property, but half the driveway's not yours?
No, never. And same way
Did he ever say to you, oh, by the way, Mr. Burrows, on the north part, the northeast corner of this property, these sheds are actually some of it on my property?
No, not at all.
No further redirect.
Just a couple recross. Mr. Burrows, the exact same question has been posed to you from the bench by Judge LaFlamme and from your own attorney, Mr. Truchan, and you have answered the question diametrically different depending on who asked you the question. The judge asked you specifically, did Mr. Drake make any representations to you about where the boundaries of the property were? And your answer was, he did not. And then when Mr. Truchan asked you the same question, you say that Mr. Drake represented that you were to own everything that was mowed. Which is it?
Everything that was mowed.
Okay, but so when you answered the judge and told him that Mr. Drake had made no representations to you, were you telling a different story?
No, I don't think I was saying that.
Well, he was pretty specific in his question. He asked you, did Mr. Drake make any representations? And again, let's make it clear. We're not talking about Mr. Cunningham. We're talking about Mr. Drake. And you answered, no, Mr. Drake had made no express representations about the boundary of the property. You remember saying that to the judge?
He didn't tell me anything about the boundaries onto it, of just where I maintain. I might have misunderstood you, but the way I look at it, it's just where I was maintaining onto it. What I'm going to go ahead and buy this house. Like
okay.
I knew he owned the driveway. I couldn't have never got my car hauler in there.
I understand. So, but again, I believe I just heard you say that Mr. Drake, in fact, made no such representation.
I never seen these blue lines onto it when I purchased the house. Everything that I'm saying is I ended up buying the property just like Drake and my realtor said. What you see in the grass is what goes with the house.
Okay, all right. I have no further questions at this point, Your Honor.
I just have one, Judge. I guess I just want to make sure from Mr. Levenger's exam. You said that Mr. Cunningham made representations in regard to what goes with this property. I thought you told the judge and under my questioning that Mr. Drake didn't say these specifics and there's lines set and everything else. What he said was everything that's mowed around this house, everything that I've maintained, like the photograph shows, goes with this house.
Yes.
There wasn't any specifics Mr. Lovinger's asking you about feet or things like that. It was everything that's mowed. And has that changed through the years?
The last couple of years when they ended up coming on property in about 2019.
I understand, but I'm saying since you bought the property until a while ago, you haven't expanded the property, you haven't done anything different with it. You've always done the same things on the property. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Nothing further on.
Thank you. Any further witnesses, Mr. Trushan?
No, I have no further witnesses.
Okay, so I need to break. If everyone's available, I should be able to continue this afternoon, but I had an emergency hearing scheduled, I think at 1 o'clock. I don't see it on the docket, but let me verify by looking at my email.
After you do that, Judge, I have a question for the court.
See.
So, if you're here tomorrow, there's some stuff in my bag.
Okay, yes, 1 o'clock, I'm hearing this other matter. Why don't we try to have you folks come back around 1:30? Does that work for everyone?
Judge, did you say 1:30?
Yes.
If I could, around there or within 10 minutes or so, what I'm going to do, Judge, is leave Mr. Marenfeld's office and drive back to my house and go to my office that's in my home because the bank building is closed down where my normal offices are, and then go from there. So 1:30, 1:40 would give me enough time to drive back and do that if it's okay with Mr. Lovinger and yourself, Your Honor.
That's fine with me. My technology is working at the courthouse now, but who knows once we log off and log back in if it's going to be working this afternoon. So,
would you rather have me just go to my office at home then and go from there so we know?
As long as you've got a good internet connection, yes.
I paid the electric bill, so I think we should be good.
Do you have cable? Cable
I do,
internet?
sir.
Yeah, that'll work. Okay, I'm going to close out this hearing. We'll see you all back around 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Which are on there.